Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We want to say welcome to SKTV. Welcome this morning, welcome this afternoon. Wherever you're watching us from, would like to following us from, would like to say welcome. To those of you following us on the radio in Liberia through FM 98.1, we say welcome, welcome, and welcome. Today we're resuming our program again, our weekly program. Um, we have a lot to discuss, as you can see the topic or the headline. Today we are what should we expect as Liberians and the world at large from the SONA, which is the
The State
normal,
of the Nation address.
yes, which is the normal State of the Nation address that is done annually. Um, but we want to welcome you today. What are some of your expectations? We'll talk about other things as well. We'll talk about some of the developing stories going on around the country. Um, a lot of things are happening. A lot of things happening around the world. So we want to invite all of you. Let's share the show as you come on. Let's invite others. Welcome to the show. Today is Sunday, the 29th of January. Can you imagine? We're just talking about Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, but here we are today. We are at the end of the new month in the new year, January. I think we got 2 more days after today. We will be talking about February. So there's a lot of things to talk about, a lot of expectations for 2023's presidential and legislative elections coming up here. As always, we want to welcome the Liberian people. Just before we go to Liberia here with Johnson, we want to welcome the Liberian people from all around the world. As always, we believe that they're the most important people on earth, the Liberian people. But most importantly, we believe that the Liberian women are the most beautiful women on earth. That being said, I want to challenge Johnson Milburn Kola if he can deny that fact. Johnson, what say you? Welcome, my man. How are you? What's going on?
Yeah, and thank you so much, Steve. But it's just that on yesterday I missed out because of my phone misbehaving and so on. But I'm good. Liberia is good. Thank you for that inspiring word. Always showering praises on our beautiful ladies, especially our women. So that's so good. Yes. So we are okay here in Liberia. Just that people are gearing up for tomorrow. I've just passed by a lot of group and gearing up, putting themselves together for tomorrow. But so Liberia is peaceful, as we may say. Liberia is peaceful. It's just that somebody happening. The few time with the latest news coming from that side. That one making a social media. Everybody keep talking here and there. Everybody saying what they want to say. In fact, how they feel and so on. And Liberia can't wait to hear the president. She wanted the six SONA that will be on tomorrow. A fifth SONA was on the same month, sometime last year, January 24th, and this one going to be on the 30th. So someone want to know as to why is it that the president SONA or the State of the Nation address dragged all the way to this time? Yes, according to the Constitution, Article 58 declared that every fourth Monday, the president of the Republic of Liberia should address the people on issues happening in the country. So, because January 1, that was also fall on Sunday and was celebrated on Monday because of that. And the Constitution said every fourth working Monday. So that means that Monday was excluded. That means that Monday was not a working Monday. So because of that, they have to drag it up to this time. So finally, the president will be delivering his sixth SONA, and that will be on tomorrow. If possible, if you go back for the second term, then then you're going to continue. If not, and that will be his last SONA for his term as president of the Republic of Liberia.
Well, another SONA coming up. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about some of the expectations. We get into it. But yes, like you said, peaceful in this context, in my view, is relative because people being hungry could not be considered peaceful for some. While on the other end, some people not being in physical war where they're shooting guns will restrict that to peace. So, I mean, peaceful in this context could be in different forms. But however, um, we want to thank the Liberian people for being peaceful. In my view, I do not necessarily believe or think it is the president or the country or the government that's keeping the peace, because they've done anything and everything to really get our people to where they will be enraged, they will be pissed off, to create chaos. But the Liberian people have maintained peace. You know, in Liberia, can say they hold their hat. The Liberian people been holding their hat. You know, so we'll give it to the Liberian people. Again, I'm not going to say the Liberian government has done so, has maintained the peace. No, I will not give them credit for that. I will give credit to the Liberian people. In my view, it has been the Liberian people that have maintained the peace in our country. Whether you like it or not, the facts are glaring, and we all know the facts. So, Melbourne, a lot of things to cover here today. We will get into other news. But you know, while we are waiting to get into other news here, really quick, before we can play this song, the music and get into the program here. What does the atmosphere look like in terms of this news that came from America with Stanton? What does it look like?
Yes, that news has two reactions. That is, other people are praying for, why other people are saying that. I don't think that it would be necessary that we hear criminals, because we Liberians don't really know that these are things that Stoughton Wetherspoon was involved into. So, when that news break up, it shocked a lot of Liberians, because to see that the man was so good, giving out to people, giving helpings, here and there, the man name blowing up, opening companies for Liberian to work, and hearing that kind of news. So some are saying that even if we say we should pray for the man, then what happened with the 7,600 plus people that have been given degrees to work at those various hospitals? Do you also know that the kind of life that are risks? So there are so many reactions pertaining to that news. People are for and people are against. Especially people are saying that he who talk about equity should be able to come with clean hands. You can't denigrate other people all of the time for doing the wrong thing, and you coming up now, or in fact you have been caught in the cookie jars, for doing the wrong thing. So there are two reactions towards that news.
Okay, there are two reactions towards the news. Melbourne, this looks very, very. I don't want to say exciting, but interesting, because we will get more into it in a little bit here as to why we were having two different reactions. What are some of the expectations? Why we talk about some of the things, and we'll also bring some developing stories here as to where we are and what's really going on in the U.S. in relations to the status of the Spoon Talk or Stephen Witherspoon and so forth. And we will talk about some things here as well. But again, it's very concerning. It's very alarming what's going on. And I think I would like to speak more from a Liberian perspective or Liberian's view, giving the image that it brings up of our country. We in the diaspora, we are quite aware that there are some skepticism about Nigerians, because they've been referred to as fraudulent group of people, people who play lots of games. They can be taken seriously. So everywhere they go, people are very apprehensive. They're looking over their shoulders or so forth. Now, do we want to have that kind of stigma? I don't necessarily think so. So we will be talking about that in other news here today. But
yeah, because we were hearing some news that in fact he was handcuffed and arrested. I don't know how true it is, but anyway, I think you got to fit us in with that news also from that side.
My man, let us not get carried away by
because there are a lot of there are a lot of news coming up.
Some people who don't even know what's going on say, but because they think the situation, this is not a political situation.
No, this is a human.
Yes, this is big. This is a big problem in the US. Let me tell you something. This situation is on almost all of the major news outlets in the United States. It has been covered different places by different people, a lot of different interests. especially the healthcare, the Department of Healthcare, the Justice Department. If this case has gone as far as the Justice Department, you might know say that that's small thing, that's not joking thing. And here is the thing about this case also that people are not paying attention to. This case is a federal case. As of yet, they haven't even brought it to the state level. So you got federal agents, federal people in charge of this case. So, I mean, this is not something that we pass around, joke around, and do our regular laboratory way or joke around and laugh with. This is serious. This is very, very serious. This is grave. And it's problematic. It is problematic. And Stanton knows that. Those who want to pass around and say, let's pray for him and let's pray for his family, that's fine. It is your right to. My only thing is, if we're going to pray for Stanton, which is, the public plead that other people are making, then we might as well schedule a prayer time too for Nathaniel McGill, schedule a prayer conference for Bill Twawe, schedule a prayer time for what the other guy is, Sereno Cephas, schedule a prayer time for Prince Johnson, schedule a prayer time for Vonnie Sherman, and anybody else or everybody else that have been, in some kind of legal problem with the United States or the government of Liberia. Then let's pray for all the criminals, all the Liberians who are criminals around the world. We might as well then not even call them out anymore. Nobody should call them out. Let's go into our prayer closet. Send God, send whip out we see God as someone an idiot that we can pass around today. Today we ask him, let's expose criminal so that we can get rid of this. When God does also do, they will come out to the scene. God and not juju man. Where you can say go make the person crazy, then come out to the scene, juju man say don't make the person crazy again.
So God is a just God. God is a just God. God believes in fair play.
We all pray. You see that the problem we get in our country, and that the problem we get even out of the country. We will ask God for one thing when God give it to us. Then I same thing we get God hacker again. And so what thing happened now? What thing happened? What happened in the United States? There is no amount of medicine. There is no amount of juju men. There is no amount of prayer. If that could happen, we saw the same nonsense with Nathaniel. We saw the same nonsense with Nathaniel McGill. We saw the same nonsense with Nathaniel McGill. When Nathaniel McGill got sanctioned, what did he do? And he got a couple of pastors in.
That's okay. Thank you. Yeah, you
for them to pray for him.
Yes.
What kind of foolishness is this?
I don't know how Liberians really think sometimes, my brother, because that's been so confusing. Because God, if you read your Bible all the time, God is a just God. He loves justice. The only time that God will want you to come close to yourself when you confess and say, yes, I do this, and ask for forgiveness, then you'll be forgiven. But you can't come on and say people should pray, people shouldn't pray. Look, my people, one of these things is that let us stop hitting criminals for no reason. That's one of the best ways that we'll move forward as people.
What's even shocking before we get into the musical break here, short little share the show. What's even shocking is I'm seeing some people trying to shy away from it or not even talk about it because of the proximity or the. Listen, the facts are just the facts. If your friend did something wrong, your friend did something wrong. Simple. Listen, your silence alone shows that you are biased. So, we can be loud on other people when they do wrong. But when the people who were close to do wrong, we don't want to talk about it. Even when we have the documents to our disposal, we have the documents here. And that's something that we're making up against anybody. Nobody's against Stanton. Nobody get problem with Stanton. If you get your political problem, it's not your business. But we who are here to ensure that we want to stand with justice, then you don't condemn us too when you decide to go with prayer. Y'all won't pray, no problem. Me, I don't get a problem with your prayer. But when we decide to speak out about it, then you can condemn us too and say, and y'all are bringing let us hear negative news. You have to do that one, you have to do that one. Also, it's negative news when other people, but it was not negative news when it was Nathaniel McGill.
No.
I saw a lot of opposition members celebrating. I saw a lot of people today being loud when it was Nathaniel McGill and the other people. Only because they were CDC. When somebody gets in trouble from George, we are around George, we are.
They become so bad, they become so terrible.
Yeah. Then they are looting the country and they are disgracing the nation. But when I your friend who you've been collecting, that's why I keep saying to you, don't take money from people who are corrupt, who have shady characters. Don't take money from them behind closed door. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it, my people. Don't do it. And nobody shouldn't lie to anybody say, oh, that the war making people. I don't know the war. They're not the war. They're not the war. They're not the war, my people. You're leading one war business. You're leading war business.
Almost 14 years. You're talking about almost 20 some more years now. You're still talking about war?
Yeah, but we've had more peace than we've had war, though. After the war, we've had more peace than war.
Mm-hmm.
My man, our people, Melbourne, our people, some of our people just refuse to do what is right.
And you know, my brother just said something because our people on a verse, when they catch Zoko, right, or those common criminals, they beat them to death. They do mob violence because maybe the police stole phone, or maybe they put in jackpots or something, or maybe bag or something, right? You beat them to death. Now, when you hear about clean Zoko, because criminal are criminal, the Bible says, "Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal." There's no difference. There's no big stealing and small stealing. It's the same stealing. So I don't know why people will be hearing other people who have those BB cards, who making your life to go to look so terrible. You'll be hearing them for stealing, and you want to kill that little Zogo out there because you feel that the Zogo jet phone. Then where are you? Then I mean you don't bear, then I mean you are not fair enough. Then you are biased. Now, what happened, my brother? There are a lot of posts on social media. People keep saying that even when you want to come up with your own analysis about the issue, people see you as someone that want to answer, as someone that don't. No, everybody will say what they want to say, and that their views. Give people their view, because the Bible says, even you, Steve, if I wrong you, there's a way that you and I that we can settle our problem. Let me go to you and tell you that, Steve, I'm sorry for what I did to you. If you not agree, let me go to maybe to my pastor, or maybe to my community or leadership. If my community leadership, if you, Steve, if you can still listen, let me go to the pastor. If you can still listen, let me go to the church. If you don't want to listen to me, then the Bible says I've done everything at least to make sure that I bring peace between you and I. But if you see Liberians, the way we behave, brother, I've seen that their country to go forward, it's still going to take us a long time, because everyone are hearing and sharing their own. Because it's my child, or maybe that because this person, it is my own, so I'm going to hire them no matter what they do, or what they do, whether it's wrong or it's right.
I agree with you. Let's get to the musical break here. Once we're done, I think Seku's joining us. Let's have Seku greet the people first before we get to the musical break. Once we're done, then we will, let's have Seku. I'm not sure Seku is ready to come on. Looks like it. Let's see. Oh, okay. Mr. Kane, good morning. How are you?
Morning. How are you?
Yes, I'm doing very well. Thank you. What's going on? Welcome to today's edition.
Yeah, thank you. I was trying to, first of all, I want to say good morning to you. Good morning to my friend, brother. Good evening to all our listeners in Liberia. Good evening. And those in the United States, depending where you are, I want to say good afternoon. If you're in Phoenix area where I live, I want to say good morning. It's good to be here. I was actually trying to connect with Councillor Raya Yakula. She's supposed to be joining us today to add more value to this conversation, because it's very, very important. She's a legal mind. She's also a politician, with no mistake. Everybody knows who she is. She is the chief of staff for Mr. Alexander B. Cummings. So she's supposed to be here today. I actually didn't send her the link in time because I fell asleep. You know that I sleep. So,
yeah, after we spoke.
after we spoke, I fell asleep. But yes, hopefully she'll be joining us with this very important conversation. We want to say congratulations to her. She just, got she just confirmed, the title of a counselor. She already been a lawyer, She used to be referred to as Anthony Moriah Yakula, but now she's no longer Anthony. And Anthony, she now a counselor at law. So
Okay.
congratulations to her, and for coming here will be very, very good to be a part of this very important conversation. But with that, Steve, um, I want to say welcome to everybody. But most of the people that they don't share show. A lot of people are here. I'm not saying many people that have shared the show. And we always ask people to share the show. It's very, very important. For every time we on the show here, in the middle of the show or towards the end of the show, you will see people coming and say, "Oh, what did I miss? Oh my God, I didn't even see the show." And people are even complaining that they are not seeing the notification. So please, if you have if you are on here, share the show on your page, share in the groups that you are in, share everywhere so that everybody can be part of the conversation from the onset. Well, yes, T, I want to say thank you. I'm going to stay try to see. She okay, I think she's but when so I think she's on and she gives everybody warning that nobody should call her without calling her uh Counselor Yakula, but now I can see she has Anthony Yakula to her name. I'm not sure why she did that, but that would be a question that I will let you know. But yeah, let's welcome Mariah Yakula on the platform.
Oh,
Hello,
thank
are you Anthony Yakula or Counselor
we got
Yakula?
we got to edit that now.
You have to edit that right now because that's what people are gonna okay. Now she already did. Yeah, so Mariah, thank you. With a very short notice,
That's
I'm
okay.
glad that you made it on here. So thank you for coming and welcome to SKTV.
Thank you for having me. How you doing, Steve?
How are you, Mario?
Dancing.
Councilor Mario? Congratulations to you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
So I want to say also to you from Liberia and want to say congratulations to you for job well done.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So, Seku, I will turn it over to you for a quick split seconds here, and I'll be right back.
That's fine. So yeah, Mariah, if you don't mind, I know your name is now strange to many people within the Liberian political space. However, I believe this is your first appearance on SKTV for anything. In my opinion, I'm not sure.
I don't think so, but
Maybe
until we get back,
maybe you have, but I can't remember.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe you have, but I want you to take a minute to kindly introduce yourself to our people. We have a different viewership on here. Trust me, we have consistent followers that even Joey can be on the show. Say they will stay here and listen to us, and we really really appreciate them. So you coming here today to be part of this very important conversation. I want you to take your time to introduce as to who is this young lady called Councilor Mariah Yakula.
Thank you, Seku. Well, I'm Mariah Yakula, counselor at law. A Liberian, born in Maryland. Actually, I was born in Barabo, Maryland County. My mom used to run the clinic in Barabo, in Goflaken to be exact. And I was born there, grew up in Monrovia, specifically Caldwell, Looking Town, and then later on moved to New Georgia to my dad. Um, I'm a mother of a 10-year-old son, and of course, I'm a feminist, women's rights advocate, and just a passionate Liberian that is committed to making our country better and a strong supporter of Mr. Alexander Cummings. I work as his chief of staff and a member of the ANC. Also a member of the Association of Female Lawyers of Liberia, a member of the Liberia Feminist Forum. I'm a Zeta woman, sister of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, and I wear a lot of robes, gowns, I should say, but just a young woman trying to make a difference.
Thank you so much. So if you ask any Liberians, especially people who are involved in politics, they will know you as Mariah first, but the next thing that will come ANC or Mr. Cummings' chief of staff. Can you tell us how you get connected to Mr. Cummings? Did you know him before joining the ANC, or just because of ANC you guys get connected? Because it seems like not only you are a chief of staff, but you are one of the able lieutenants of Mr. Cummings. So how did you guys connected?
Long story, I'll keep it short. So I didn't know Mr. Cummings prior to working for him. And this story is quite profound because it really speaks to the kind of leader he is and the kind of person he is. Now, mind you, Mr. Cummings, having worked at Coca-Cola and being the chief administrative officer and vice president for administration, had to run the company across 200 countries around the world. And we're talking about thousands of employees. And he was also managing HR. So he was with the entire administrative aspect of the company. And this is a multi-billion-dollar company across 200 countries around the world. So he has a knack for identifying talent and placing them in areas of their strength, right? So all of this, I quite didn't know as much, but I remember 2017, I didn't support Mr. Cummings then. I thought he was new to the politics and needed to get his feet wet. But I always said, if I wasn't supporting the UP at the time, because I believed what the work we were doing with Madame Sharif, having served as minister under her government, assistant minister, I thought it would be better to continue that work we were doing instead of having the CDC or someone else take over and start from scratch. So I always talked to Ta Wongbe at the time. He was with Mr. Cummings, and he always tried to get me over. And I said, if I wasn't supporting the UP, I would be supporting either Mr. Cummings or the late Councillor Bromsky in Liberty Party. But after the 2017 elections, I remember 2018 when Boyka Chaluba spoke to us about the idea of CPP, of all of the opposition parties coming together. We decided we would group ourselves and talk to each of the political leaders about the importance of opposition unity. And so we had to go and meet with them. I was part of the group that went to meet with Mr. Cummings. And we went to his foundation, the Cummings Africa Foundation, the Old Road. And in that meeting, it was me, Councillor Yafa Bagbe, Minipake Dumore, Stephen Johnson, and I remember who else. But we went to Mr. Cummings and spoke to him about the importance of opposition unity, and we were having conversations around the opposition coming together. And he embraced the idea. In fact, he was the only person who asked us for a written document and said, you guys give us something, a written document on the house. We're going to, do this and what it is. And so I think I was the only woman on that team. And that was the first time I had actually met him. But then I remember a little while later, Councillor Babek told me, Mr. Cummings asked me for your number and he wanted to talk to you. And I said, oh, sure, no problem. And so he said he would give me my number. And I think a couple of weeks later, he came to the firm. At that time, I was working at Heritage Law Firm. And I had just picked up my son from school. I remember they took a picture together. And the one thing he said was, Mariah, I took your number and I was going to call you, but I haven't gotten to it yet. But anyways, the mountain has come to Mohammed. So Mohammed can come to the mountain. And I laughed. And I said, no, that's like, you're the mountain, right? But we laughed about it. He said, I will call you. And I said, okay. And Months passed by. I saw Ta and I called him and said, "Look, Ta, I've decided that I want to support Mr. Cummings for 2023 elections. But I know for sure that elections are won long before elections day and the work needs to be done. And I know there's a lot of work Mr. Cummings, in the ANC still needs to do, and I want to help. So I'm thinking more of helping with the foundation, promoting the work the foundation is doing in the communities because I know they're doing a lot, and just helping in the background how I can. So I wanted to let you know. He said, "You know what? I think that's a great idea. In fact, welcome on board." And we laughed about it. He said, "But I will talk to Mr. Cummings about you wanting to help." And I said, "Okay." And a few days later, Ta called me and said, "Mo, let's meet up at Royal." And so we met at Royal Rooftop, and he said, "Hey, so I spoke to Mr. Cummings about you wanting to help. And he said he wants you to be his chief of staff." And I'm like,
Wow.
no, 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 no. I'm like, no, no, no. That's not what I had in mind. I'm in my practice. I'm enjoying practicing. I'm doing my law, career. That will require me leaving the practice. That will require full time, and that's a very personal, position. And I don't know Mr. Cummings. I've met him twice, and not even like for long, right? And I remember Ty said to me, Mariah, if Mr. Cummings asks you to be his chief of staff, if he wants you to be his chief of staff, that means he's done his homework and you should take it. And I said, let me think about it. Let me also talk to family about it as well. And I also have to meet Mr. Cummings. He said, yeah, sure. I mean, he wants to talk to you as well. And so I talked to a few mentors, I talked to a family, and I met with Mr. Cummings. First meeting we had, I think it was at the party headquarters of the foundation. Then we had a second meeting. And I remember after the second meeting, he said, "I want you to meet my wife to have dinner with us." And so the third meeting was with Mrs. Cummings at their home, and we had dinner. And it all went well. And I remember I spoke to someone that said, the fact that he asked you to meet Mrs. Cummings, you already got the job, right? But it was really, yeah, it was really surprising for me that this was someone, and mind you, he knew I didn't support him 2017. He knew I supported the UP. He knew I was a, supporter of the UP, but that didn't stop him from being able to say, this is what I want you to help me with. This is the space or the void that I want you to fill. This is who I want you to be, in my team, on my team. And it was such an honor because, trust me, I've met several of his chief of staffs from Coke over the years. Brilliant women, very professional, very smart, well-grounded. I mean, they're all now doing very well in their careers. And so he's seen talent. He's worked with people who, knows what to do. And so for him to have, made that offer, it was humbling. And that's why I don't take my job lightly. Anybody who knows me knows that if I have to wake up 5 o'clock in the morning and get stuff done, my body clock will wake me up. It's just what it is. But long story short, that's how I started working with Mr. Cummings, and it's been one of the best decisions I've made. He's become a mentor, not just a boss, and it's been a great work relationship. I pray for the day Liberia can experience, the man Mr. Cummings is as president and the kind of leadership he brings and how he leads. I promise you, I've had several bosses, and Mr. Cummings has a way of cautioning you without making you feel bad about yourself. He has a way of you keeping your dignity even when he's telling you that you did something wrong, right? Mr. Cummings will not be able to say, "You didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do his one thing he says, "You had an opportunity. There was an opportunity to do this." And once I tell people all the time, if you're around Mr. Cummings, once he uses that word opportunity, just know you dropped the ball. It's like, you have to able to understand what he's trying to say, right? But he would not make you feel small. He would not make you feel like you don't know what you're doing. I mean, if he's giving feedback, criticism, he's very measured about it. And he even tells us, even when people come to ask for assistance or people come to ask for things and you were not able to help them, let them leave with their dignity intact. He's very big on that. And I think that's something that Liberia as a country needs. That's the kind of leader we need to lead us. And I'm looking forward to 2024 when we would have won the elections and Liberians have, everybody gets to have him as their boss. And I think it would be good for the country.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Wow. I mean, that was so sweet, especially not knowing you that much and to have that confidence to say, hey, I want her to be my chief of staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you must be somebody too, because he's not just going to go just out of the blue to just say, yeah, I want her to. He might have asked other people behind you about you and as to who you are and how you work. I think that was
Yeah.
very, very compelling story. So,
Correct.
before I go to my colleagues here, I saw a picture of you and I think your father, because I saw Yakule 1, Yakula 2. I want to know how and why you decided to be a lawyer. Is it because your father was a lawyer or you just have a passion of being a lawyer?
Well, he was a factor, but he wasn't the only factor. You know, when I was growing up, my mom was a midwife. My godmother, Auntie Jamba Mattis Roberts, she was a physician assistant. And they both worked with Ministry of Health, and they both ran a clinic in Broadville, around Parker Corner, I think, yeah, Moulton Corner. And so with MSF, Ministry of Health. So I grew up in the hospital setting because we lived in the clinic at some point. And my whole childhood, it was around hospitals, my mom working at Sweet Relief, Redemption, so I always was around medical stuff and I wanted to be a doctor. Or you remember my teachers when they said do a composition, what do you want to do when you grow up? It was always, I want to be a medical doctor. I want to be a medical doctor. And so that was with me until about, I think, seventh grade. I got sick and was in the hospital. I was admitted at Redemption for about 3 days. And I was in the hospital in the general ward because my mom didn't have money to put me in private room. But I tell you, Sekou, it was one of the most, I don't know how to explain it. Being on the general ward and listening to people crying and in pain and sick and people throwing up and just, it was so depressing. I mean, I was sick, but I wasn't that sick, right? But it was so depressing being in the hospital. And part of why I wanted to be a doctor was because I wanted to help people. And being in the hospital during that time, I felt very helpless. Not helpless because I couldn't help them, but helpless because even the nurses and doctors couldn't help them. You give people the drugs, they got the next time that you got to come back to get in the medication. And during that period, there's not much you can do for them, or maybe they're restless, they're in pain. So there's only so much doctors can do, right? And so I just felt like if I do this, I still won't be able to help people as much. If someone has a big cut on them, you can only dress it and treat it and bandage it. You can let it go. It doesn't go away immediately. So they will still be in pain. So I was like, I can't really help much. But long story short, I left the hospital with my dreams of being a doctor. I was like, I can do it. And then I can do the gore, the blood, the throwing up. I was just like, if I do this, I will pass the exams, but I'll be a terrible doctor. So I left with my dreams of being a doctor. So I knew I couldn't be a doctor. So it was like, what's next? What's next? What can I do? But I used to love reading. I still love reading. And I would read a lot of Sidney Sheldon books, Sidney Sheldon and John Grisham's. And those are my favorite authors. I read Memories of Midnight, The Other Side of Midnight, just different books that they would write. And convent girls, we shared books amongst each other. And so I was very intrigued and interested in, the stories and finding out, of course, at the time it's basic stuff. Who killed this person, the investigation, all of that stuff, the law, the legal things. And then I started reading more legal books with John Grisham, Time to Kill and all that stuff. But during that period, then my dad entered law school. And so he was in law school at the time. And so I used to sit in his library. He had the LRs, which are the Liberian Law Reviews, read the cases, talk to him about it. But it also followed into my wanting to help people, because I realized that the law was also another way of helping people. And one person that, my mom used to be somebody that used to take and buy people plow, because she hated people taking advantage of other people. And I think it's something that I took from her. I just hate to see people taking advantage of. I would jump in there, I'll buy a plow. To the point that my entire Jama used to be scared to tell my mom if somebody did something to her, because she came home and she found out. My mom's like, Jama, what happened to you? She said, nothing happened. She said, no, something happened to you. Who did something to you? She said, I beg you, it's okay, because she was ready to go buy her plow, because she didn't like people taking advantage of another person. So I felt like I had taken that from my mom. But at the end of the day, all I really wanted to do was help people. And if I couldn't help people as a doctor, then I figured I would help them as a lawyer. And the law was just very interesting. So I knew then and there, between 8th to 9th grade, I wanted to be a lawyer. And that was, how I got on that path. And it's been quite interesting. So yes, my dad is a lawyer. He's a counselor as well. And I was teasing him and said the day we are temple justice, somebody said, counselor, you could have both of us will turn around now. Because before, if you say Councillor Yekula, it would be just him. I was Attorney Yekula. So now we're both councillors. So it's a Councillor Yekula, they both of us will turn around. I said they got to qualify Councillor Yekula 1 or 2. No, but he's very proud. He's
all
very
right.
proud.
Steve, back to you. And Mr. Babel.
Thank you, Mr. Kane. Maria, welcome to the show. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Do you mind if I call you Mariah? Because the
Yes,
counselor
please call me
now
Mariah.
also get adjusted.
Yeah, no, call me Mariah.
All right, great. Great. Your stories seem very inspiring. Especially for young women. In the connections, how you and Mr. Cummings connected, and how you came to being his chief of staff. Being chief of staff, I never heard you say you were ever chief of staff before. So, what are some of the so far? What has been some of the challenges you've faced as a chief of staff?
That's a good question. So I've not been chief of staff before, but I've been in administration for many years. In fact, when I started working in government, I started in administration. When I came back from the U.S., and I tell even the staff at the office this story. I came back with 2 bachelor degrees from the U.S., and this was over 10 plus years ago, 2011. And most times when people graduate from the U.S., American universities, they come back, they look for big jobs, they want appointments and stuff. I actually started as an administrative assistant at the port. And so I did that in the office of the managing director. And before the end of the year, then I worked as executive assistant to Mayor Bro. And so I was in administration for that period, almost 5 years and stuff. And then I got appointed assistant minister for administration as well. So I've been in administration for quite some time before my legal career. And mind you, I was also working with very strong women, Madam Matilda Parker and Madam Mary Bro. And so there was a lot in administration I had gotten to do. So the job wasn't new for me, administratively. But to your question, the challenges have been quite different because we're in a very political space. My previous administrative work, had been mostly, of course, government, but also less political. But with Mr. Cummings, it's really more political. And I have a tendency of being very bold, blunt, straight to the point, say as it is. And being a political space where the sensitivities are high, people tend to get easily offended. And then it reflects on Mr. Cummings. And so that's been one of my biggest challenges, when to bite and blow, when to be direct and blunt, when to, massage egos. I am terrible at massaging egos. I don't know how to do it, but as part of my job, I have to learn to do it. Sometimes I have to just let people be. So that's been a challenge because my actions, my words, things that I say, people tend to attribute to Mr. Cummings. Most times, oh, as chief of staff, you're speaking for the principal, and I'm not, and so I have to strike that balance. And that's why even when I was on Spoon, I was always very clear about I'm here as Mariah and not representing Mr. Cummings, right? Because my views and stuff have always been attributed to Mr. Cummings in this role. So that's a big challenge. Which I mean another challenge. The fact that my views, what I say, whether it's on social media, whether it's on the radio, have always been attributed to Mr. Cummings as what he's saying or his thoughts or his views, which they're not. Because I like to think I'm an independent person as well. And then the fact that I have to balance out, my being blunt and bold and direct and to the point with managing the sensitivities around, the politics and all of that has also been quite a challenge. But overall, most of that, I think I would even have had to deal with this, even if I wasn't chief of staff, was just the highly patriarchal space that politics in Liberia is. And what I'm saying is it's predominantly male dominated, whether it's in the party, the EC, every structure within the parties, whether it's other parties, politics in Liberia is highly male dominated. And so whether or not I was chief of staff, this was also a challenge. And I think other women in the political space have to deal with that. It's really a challenge when you're trying to get certain views across. And I tell people all the time, being in politics, I already have 3 strikes. 1, I'm a woman. 2, I'm young. 3, I'm small body. Most people see me as like, oh, you look bigger on TV. I am tiny. So people always, think, oh, that little girl and that little girl. And so it's already 3 strikes. So you're in the middle of a male-dominated space, and you're trying to get your views across, or you're trying to influence decisions and stuff, and you're either dismissed, or you have to come across strong, or you have to put your foot down. So it's something that a lot of women, even in politics, and I don't think that challenge is unique to me, have to deal with. And I think gradually it's changing. And also as a feminist, the sexism in politics is something I've had to deal with as well. But I must give it to, the EC of the ANC. I'm glad that over time they have been more sensitive about these things. And it's funny because we'll be in an EC meeting, and I remember someone said something about, women can do that job or something. And say, ain't see Mariah yet? They say, oh, yeah, right? And everybody will laugh, or they will want to say something, they'll be like, ain't see Mariah yet? Or if Mariah were here, she'll come and deal with you, right? But they're becoming more sensitive about how we say things. And I remember we had this issue about the chair of Monserrato being a woman. And there was this noise from a lot of young men and other people in the party. That job is for women. Women can do that job. That man can do that job. That Monserrato is the most populated county in the country. And we need to win Monserrato. Yeah, technically giving it to him. And I said, is this about a woman? Or is this about whether or not she can get the job done? Because if it's just about her gender, then you lost me, right? So I think, and Mr. Cummings was very, supportive about it and ensured that she got the job. But those are all challenges that women in politics have to deal with. But specifically to my role as chief of staff, it will be more or less, my balance and the sensitivities around the politics and people also tying my views to that of Mr. Cummings.
Okay, great. Chelsea, I'll get with you in just a minute if you don't mind, please. I'd love to have you maybe another time where we can actually talk about Mariah so that maybe the Liberian people can know who you are as opposed to what they see on Facebook. You know, some of these challenges that maybe you are faced with, and some of the things you have to navigate. But there's some things just before we get into the real conversation here, the political conversation, the national or whatever it is. Does I have one question, but it's in two parts. Does your role as chief of staff does it roll over from the ANC into the CPP at large, or are you restricted?
So I play a different role with the CPP. With the CPP, I'm a member of the CPP Executive Committee because the CPP is both ANC and Liberty Party.
Right.
So I'm a member of the CPP Executive Committee. That's different and separate from my role as Chief of Staff. But because Mr. Cummings is the political leader, is the standard bearer of the CPP and political leader of the ANC, so it also flips into the CPP. So it tends to be, so for example, if he has to be at events or meetings has, being scheduled, or, where he's going, he's scared, all of these things, I have to be able to manage them as well because it's part of the CPP. So the office works directly with the campaign and the party.
Okay.
And so that helps create coordination between the campaign and the party, coordination of Mr. Cummings' activities and scheduling, speeches, press conferences, all of these things. The office, the party, and the campaign work together. So I'm more of the coordinating arm between the office and the campaign. But when it comes to the CPP, I'm an executive member of the CPP.
Okay, executive member. But here's the part B of that question that I wanted to ask, because I said I have one more question for you, but in two different sides of it. I'm not considering the CPP is in collaboration with the LP as of now. And as you and I may know, and the public may be aware, optics are very important. I'd like to know the role of Ben Senvi within the CPP, as opposed to the picture we just seen with him and President George Weah. What does that say about the CPP at large, considering they are considered the opposition? What do you say?
So Ben Senvi is an executive member of the Liberty Party. And the Liberty Party, I believe he's on the executive council or national advisory council of the Liberty Party as former chairman. He's also former chairman of the Liberty Party. And the Liberty Party is part of the CPP. Ben's photo with the president, I believe he met with the president as former, I would say, executive member of the opposition or of the Liberty Party. Mind you that Liberia is very small. And sometimes we forget that the relationships, and I tell people all the time, around the world, there are 3 degrees of separation. I know you, you know someone. In Liberia, there's 1. I know Sekou, I know this person, right? We're very small, very close-knit society. And so in spite of the politics, there are also relationships that people have to navigate. Ben has a very close relationship with the vice president. He's been very open and vocal about it. And there's no secret about his relationship with the vice president. But in spite of that, he also was the chairman of the Liberty Party. He didn't support the vice president's bid until the second round, where he supported the CDC, since the vice president was running on that ticket. Ben also came to town for the vice president's birthday, I believe, and he was part of the panel interviewing the vice president of Nigeria, the first lady of Sierra Leone and Freetown during that program. I wasn't there, but I saw it. And so his visit with the president, in fact, before he met with the president, he did inform us, not CPP, but I'm in another chat room with him, with some other young professionals, and he did mention to us that he was going to meet with the president. His meeting with the president can be on several fronts. One, he sits on Spoon Talk. It's a national talk show, and they discuss national issues, and there are things he may want to discuss with the president concerning how the country is run. Ben is also a stakeholder on, I guess, on a national level. And so I wouldn't read too much into his picture with the president. Now, if he supports the CDC, then I can, speak to that. If he comes up and say he supports the CDC, of course there will be questions. He said it clearly that his support to the CDC in 2017 was a mistake. So if he's going to repeat the same mistake, then that's something that we're all going to have questions around and conversation around. But in terms of him meeting with the president, I don't think it's out of the ordinary as a stakeholder in our national politics. I think he should meet with the president if he has the opportunity to, and ask him questions, or have discussions with him that he may need to. Now, today the president was at our church. I'm a member of St. Thomas, and the president visited St. Thomas. I mean, I didn't meet with him, but again, anybody could have met with him or gone to say hello to him, shake his hand, take a photo with him. I didn't do that, but everybody's different. But I just don't want to read too much into a picture with Ben meeting with the president. Now, whatever comes out of that meeting, if he announces that he's supporting the CDC or supporting his mom, Joel, or going back to support CDC, then Ben will hear from me.
Thank you, Maria. Let's have Lobo. Do you have any question before we take a break here? You're muted.
As the councillor, let me say answer to you again one more, but I want to ask you this question. One, were you part of the ANC during the 2019 election or the CPP that brought in about 9 senators? That one, and two, we have less than 254 days to go. And how prepared you as chief of staff to SONA Comics to make sure that or the ANC or the CPP become victorious in the 2023 election? Thank you.
Thank you, Johnson. Yes, I was a part of the CPP during 2019-2020 by-elections. In fact, I traveled along with Mr. Cummins' entourage to almost all of the counties during the election to campaign for our candidates. I know we went to the Southeast, Sino, through Bassa, Riverside, Sino, River G, Maryland, Grand Jita. So we went to Cape Mount as well, Bomi. So he did go around the country. I think we didn't go to Lofa and Nimba or something, but in Bong. But most Markibi went to some of the counties. And to campaign for the candidates, mind you, was under Mr. Cummins' chairmanship of the CPP that those elections were held, and we had that success we did, mostly with a united CPP, but also because of the leadership he provided. And it's one of those things that I don't let people forget easily, that the whole point of the rotating chairmanship under the CPP was to see the leadership skills and abilities of each of these leaders who wanted to be president. That was because I was on the validation committee of the CPP framework document. And so during our discussions, the whole point of having a rotating chairmanship, that each of the political leaders did 8-month chairmanship of the CPP before we go to the process to select the head of the ticket, the standard bearer of the CPP, was to allow the CPP and the public to experience the leadership abilities of each of these political leaders. And Mr. Cummins was the first chairman after the framework was signed. And it was under his chairmanship that we saw much success, that we saw the CPP unified, that we saw the CPP make a lot of progress, that we saw the CPP hold the government accountable very often. Matter of fact, we had press conferences almost twice a month or so just on national issues. And we saw the CPP being very vibrant under Mr. Cummins and very successful under Mr. Cummins. It was under Mr. Cummins that the CPP opened, I think, 8 chapters of the county chapters of the CPP, the bank account, the elections, results. And it was just, we even won a case at the Supreme Court with the CPP. It was just a lot of things happening under Mr. Cummins' chairmanship. And then after his chairmanship, we saw the rapid decline and eventual breakup of the CPP under Ambassador Boycott. But so yes, I was a part of that, and again, it was. I would like to state that clearly under Mr. Cummings' chairmanship. Now, in terms of preparation for 2023 this year, we're not 100% there, but we are getting there. Again, there are lots of things to be put into place. There's still a lot of work to be done, but I can promise you that the CPP under Mr. Cummings' leadership will be as prepared as any other party for 2023 elections. And this is not an election we're going to take lightly. In fact, there have already been several engagements. Mr. Cummings met with the ECOWAS ambassador sometime about a couple of weeks back, I think 2 weeks ago, where he spoke about certain issues around the elections and elections integrity, ensuring that the elections, are free, fair, and transparent, that the selection process of the company to do the biometrics, the issue around the biometrics, not being fully undertaken, but rather a hybrid system where you transition slowly into 100% biometric. I mean, just everything around the elections and elections integrity were discussed, and ECOWAS even informed us that the government had written them requesting technical support at the Elections Commission, and ECOWAS was in the process of providing technical support to the National Elections Commission. And so we are on top of this. We've also strengthened our team at the IPCC meeting, which is the inter-party council with the National Elections Commission and parties, political parties, on to discuss serious issues around the elections that may come up. So we're not taking this election seriously. Jokingly, we're very serious about it. We're prepared for it, and I promise you, the CPP is going to go full force for these elections.
All right, thank you. So Steve.
Yeah, Sekou, it's up to you.
Yeah, so Mariah, thank you so much. So I'm here just listening, enjoying the conversation, all the deliberations. I'm enjoying it. So for those of you who are confusing SKTV and SKTV Live, if you are just on SKTV Live, which is a new platform, that is a backup platform for our regional platform, you not see a lot of people there because people don't know about that platform that much. Somebody say if your view drop, because on there, I'm not even sure how many people watching there. But on the actual SKTV, the original SKTV, there where a lot of people are. But when you make a comment, we on the set here, we see it. It doesn't matter where you are. Whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're watching on SKTV Live, or you're watching on the original SKTV, we will still see your comment. But some of you may not even see each other comment if you're on different forum. But I want to encourage you, if you are here for the substance and the educational aspect of our platform, it doesn't matter where you find yourself. But if you want to see where hundreds or thousands of people watching, you got to go to SKTV Original. So that way, if number motivates you and that gives you energy to come on the show, then go there. But no matter where you say it, no matter what you write, we will see it. So I just wanted to, clarify that. Again, I want to clarify something real quick. Somebody said, "Oh, SKTV not take all spoon viewers." So we operate in different time. We come on way before Spoon, and mostly after our show, Spoon comes on. And to their credit, many times I've observed when we are having some big shows, their show mostly can be delayed. When we finish, they can go and do their show. As a matter of fact, because of that, we don't even let to stay longer on most of our show because we don't want to interfere with other people's time. Because almost like Mariah just said, Liberia, we are very small. The same group of people that watch SKTV are the same group of people, the same name, the same people are writing here. That they was simple you go see on Spoon. Like then when you will go see on Focus on Liberia and all the other shows. One platform may have more viewership than the other, but if you in Liberia, we say sift oil. When we sift oil to remove all the Indian people and Chinese people and all the funding from there, the actual people that they are the same people. So I'm not trying to say Indian people can watch, but I know one Indian guy called Ben Sammy used to be watching me from Mumbai. Yeah. So I just wanted to I just wanted to add that.
I
So
think we are not for the Indian talk shows.
yeah, no. I know about Ben Savage. You should be watching from India, from Mumbai. I know that. Yeah. So Mariah, back to the conversation.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, Monday, will be the president address to the nation, and normally we always come on right after the president's speech to analyze it. However, we want to pick your brain and everybody else here pick on your brain to know what are your expectations tomorrow. What do you expect to hear, and will it change anything? And do you expect facts to be presented to the Liberian people as mandated by the Constitution?
Well, it is expected that the president will provide facts to the Liberian people. It is the honorable thing to do. However, a lot of things get padded when you don't have too much to report. There's a tendency to pad things, to add it up, or to make small things look big. I remember, I think it was last year, State of the Nation, or the year before, the president talked about them building latrines. I mean, basically, Osatole in the State of the Nation address, as part of his developmental achievements. And I thought it was very, it was bad. When you are reporting to the country as the president on a year's work of achievements or things you've done as a country, as a president, as the executive, we would expect things that would directly impact the lives of the people, that would be developmental progress. I mean, we're in the 21st century. Unfortunately, Liberia is still in the 18th century, but the world is in the 21st century. When you're reporting to your people on things you've done to improve their lives, we can't be talking about government only. And so I would hope that we don't have a repeat of the same in tomorrow's address. I would hope that the president can be able to give a clear picture, and given that it will be his last State of the Nation address, that he would really tell the Liberian people what he's been working on, not aspirations, not more promises. We know that he's only been able to fulfill 8% of the promises he's made in the last 5 years. And so it's not the issue of we're going to be working on this, we're going to be working on this, we're going to be working on this, so vote for me for the next 6 years so I can fulfill another 8%. I think it has to be tangible things that have been done that the Liberian people can feel, can see, that is impacting their lives positively, and that is showing that this country is developing rapidly. And clearly we don't see it, so we can only hope to see what the president will speak about tomorrow. But I pray that we're not talking about government only.
Okay. So on the same speech, the last year, you guys went on a hot water criticism that the CPP or Mr. Cummings did not respond to the president's address in a timely manner, because wanted to see or draw a contrast, say some like a different view, contrasting what was presented by the president and what is the reality, or what is the opposition side of the story. You guys were criticized heavily on social media in every way. I believe, if I can remember, that response came in maybe a week later. And we were myself a part of that in criticizing, you guys for not doing a good job. Are we going to see a response from the opposition this time around in a timely fashion? And if yes, by who? The new councillor, or the standard bearer, or the chairman? Are we expecting a response from the opposition tomorrow?
So let me just say, last year I got the criticism, and we'll take it. Look, I think it's relative what rapid is. People expected the same day. People expected 2 days. I think it was about 3 or 4 days. It wasn't the whole week. But if you're looking at working days, people will take working days to be the whole week. But we get it. We take it. And I can assure you this year will be very different. The response will be in less than 24 hours. And look, it's the State of the Nation address. There will be no secretary, chief of staff, chairman. It will be the next president of the Republic of Liberia, responding to the current and outgoing president's State of the Nation address.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be so. Tomorrow
And let me just say for the record, when I say it's President Weah's last State of the Nation address, is because I know that the Liberian people are not going to reward President Weah another 6 years for his poor performance as president. 2023 is the last State of the Nation address under this term, and he's going to be a one-term president. So he will not be given another State of the Nation address again.
Okay. So before I go to my colleague again, based on your own experience and what is going on right now in Liberia, do you think we have election this year, this October? If so, if you believe the election will happen, how prepared is the opposition, given the time frame that is being allotted for campaign, and the level of voter registration, that nothing seems to be in place? So do you think there will be an election this year? And if so, how prepared are you as an opposition?
So I think Johnson asked a similar question, but in terms of whether I think there will be any elections this year, I hope and pray that the Constitution will not be violated for us to not have an election. The time, date, month given for elections, it's clearly stated in the Constitution. It is a constitutional provision. It is not a legislative provision. It is not a statute. It is a constitutional provision. And this president swore to uphold the Constitution. And so if it's the last thing he does, I would pray that he would ensure that elections are held come October 2023. Now, the timeline or the new schedule given by the NEC, to be honest, is pretty tight. The time frames, because of the delays in selecting the company for the biometrics and the new time schedule that they've set up, it's clearly very, very tight. What that means is NEC has no room for errors or any further delays. Now, is it realistic given the capacity challenges of the NEC or the technical professional also? Not necessarily, but what that also means is now the political parties, opposition, have to be on NEC's back to ensure that there are no further delays. Because any other delay in any of the activities to be done will lead to delay in the other activities to be done, and it will become a trickle-down effect. It might affect whether or not we're prepared as a country for elections in October. But if NEC is prepared, which I believe they've been funded, and our partners are also considering providing additional support to NEC in terms of technical support, especially from ECOWAS, as I mentioned earlier, they should be able to achieve each of those activities with the time frame given. And as tight as it is, that means they have to give it, their all and ensure that elections are held in October. Because if that doesn't happen, we will have a constitutional crisis. If elections are not held on October, in October, we will have a constitutional crisis. And that means come January inauguration day, when the new president should be sworn in, we should have a new president to be sworn in. So we don't want to have a constitutional crisis. We don't want to get to that point. And I'm sure the president doesn't want his one term to be, covered with all of these different issues or scandals or constitutional crisis, because it will reflect poorly on his government and his one term. And so I believe he's also very concerned about having elections in October. And I think it will be done. But we will know for sure as time goes on. We have the schedule, the calendar of events or activities. And if any one is delayed, we'll see how it reflects on the others. And so we'll continue to work with NEC, but also to put our pressure on NEC to ensure that they follow the schedule. In terms of the opposition being prepared, yes. Look, we don't have a choice. We have to be prepared. And I think we are being prepared for the elections coming up. I think the country is being prepared for the elections coming up. I think Liberians are excited about making a different choice come October. And it's going to be an exciting time. I posted the other day, I said 2023 will be juicy. So there's a lot that's going to happen in the next, 8-9 months. And we'll see what happens. But I'm sure everybody is excited about turning a new page and having a country that we can all be ready to work together to move forward and ensure that Liberians, get a better country. So, yeah.
Thank you. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Kane. Speaking of, before we pivot here, speaking of the opposition being prepared, just most recently, the president traveled and lied to the country. The opposition were right there. President stayed out of the country for so many time, unconstitutional. We didn't see the opposition do anything, say anything apart from maybe holding a press conference or so forth. In terms of this preparedness, when you say to the opposition is prepared just in case the election is pushed back, unconstitutional or whatever that, what do you mean? Because preparedness is relative. What do you mean when you say that?
So to answer that, the question will be, what did you expect? And it's a rhetorical question. What did you expect the opposition to do when the president was gone for that long out of the country? Under the Liberia we had before, maybe people expected the opposition to riot, to overthrow,
Yes.
but that's not the Liberia we have now, and that's not the Liberia we should have.
Okay.
We're a democratic society, and overthrowing a sitting president should not be the focus of the opposition. Now, removing that sitting president democratically through the ballot should be the focus of the opposition. Removing that sitting president democratically through the legislature, whether it's by impeachment, for failure to perform his duties and other acts as inscribed in our constitution, could be the focus of the opposition. But in terms of overthrowing, whether by coup, whether by bloodless coup, whatever it is, that should not be the focus of an opposition. And so, if people expected that I would say that was the old Liberia, and we still had that where that landed us as a country and as a people. So now, the Liberia we have requires that as members of the opposition, we should be ready to beat the president at the ballot box and to defeat him at the ballot box and to remove him through the ballots or through the democratic process through the legislature, which we know we wouldn't because of how the legislature is set up. But the only option the opposition has now is through the ballot, and that's what we're prepared for, And so when I say prepared, it's really about letting our people know that they now have an opportunity to make a different choice. It's really about preparing our teams, our county structures, our district leadership, preparing the party structure, the CPP, both ANC, LP, working with other opposition parties on issues of national concern, electoral issues that are affecting, or will affect the elections process, and being, united around those issues that we can use one voice to address. Because there's no telling the length this government or president or leadership will go to try to maintain or retain power. And so we just have to also be on our guard and ensure that the elections, because listen, the only way, there'll be any possibility of rigging the elections is if the process is not transparent, if it's not free and fair. And so that's the first thing the opposition has to unite around, ensuring elections integrity, which is what Mr. Cummings talks about all the time, from whether it's voter registration to whether it's the new biometric process, to whether, the issue of people trucking, to whether it's the new polling stations that they will be set up. And mind you, there are several ways to discourage people from showing up to the polls. If you put a polling station 2-3 hours away, people might not want to walk to go to the polling station. So the distance of the polling stations centers as well. All of these things are crucial, and we're not overlooking anyone, and we're going to be on the lookout for all of it. So the composition of the magistrates, the election magistrates, remember a couple of months ago, they tried to reappoint all of the magistrates,
Right.
remove the city magistrate and reappoint. The opposition got on that as well, because there's several ways people can try to rig elections before elections day. And so we've been ready. We've been on these things, and we're not letting down. We're not letting go, because this process has to be transparent and it has to be free and fair to avoid any possibility of rigging. So when I say the opposition is ready, that's what I meant. We're ready for elections to be held, but we're also ready to be like hawks and guiding this process to ensure that it's free, fair, and transparent.
Thank you for the clarity and context there. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, this is SKTV. We have Councilor Maria Yakula with us today. Those of you listening to us via the radio, we say stay tuned as we continue this segment of questioning to the councilor here. We'll try to be careful so that we're not hearing contempt. So we'll be careful with the councilor. But to our viewers, those of you on the Facebook live feed, please be respectful to our guest. That's our rule here. Please be respectful to our guests. Disagree with her, but please, no insults. please, and please. Let's get back to the questioning really quick. We're not acting like we're not addressing the elephant in the room here. Most recently, we did see you on Spoon Talk as panelist. In my view, I'm not sure if that's what I should be saying, but that's how I view it as panelist. Most recently, we haven't seen you, and I stand to be corrected if there is any official communication as to whether you've left Spoon Talk official or not. That you might probably address. But here's the question. Generally, what do you make of the open indictment that we've seen in the public so far? Maybe before we can go into the nitty-gritty of it, what do you make of it?
So I'm no longer on Spoon Talk. I made that decision. And no, there were no official communication to that effect. I haven't posted about it either. I think I'm talking about it for the first time. Ben was teasing me the other day and said, we're bringing you back. And I'm like, no, thanks. But getting to the issue of the CEO, listen, as a lawyer, the first thing I would say is innocent until proven guilty. However, I will also say that before a federal indictment is brought, that means these prosecutors have crossed the T's, dotted the I's, and they have an ironclad case. The number of cases of federal indictments that go to trial, that means the person said not guilty, go prove it in court, they're less than 10%, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
That means by the time your lawyer sees the evidence against you, most times they just advise you to take a plea deal. You're guilty, you enter a plea of guilty, you negotiate, come up with a reduced sentence, whatever it is, coordinate with the prosecutors. In those cases, I settled outside of trial. Those who say I'm not guilty and they go to trial, they're less than 10%. And most times when they go to trial, they get convicted. So for federal prosecutors to bring an indictment, that means they have all of the evidence, they've crossed the T's, dotted the I's, and there's probable cause that you did commit the crimes you're accused of committing. I think outside of the conviction, with the indictment that I saw and that I read, I think it's not only disappointing, but it's also dangerous for the American healthcare system that even took place. To have nurses who have not gone through the rigors of the profession, of the clinicals and the learnings and the courses required, because mind you, America is also a medical tourism society. Even in Liberia, most people who can afford, who want to go to the US for healthcare, they pride themselves on having the best doctors and nurses and healthcare system in the world. And this wasn't just Stanton. There were 25 persons in 3 colleges or nursing schools, including his, that are part of this, what they now call Operation Nightingale.
Right.
And this has affected the US's health system and the trust and confidence that even Americans themselves have in their healthcare system, that foreigners have in the US healthcare system. And America is not going to compromise that. I know that this was also on the Shade Room for those who are on Instagram and follow. And there were lots of comments, mostly by nurses, who were upset, angered over the fact that they had to spend hours, thousands of dollars going through the nursing program, getting their certification, taking their board exams, going through that tedious process. And there were people selling diplomas for $15,000. That's the danger, because Except Johnson myself, and when I was in school in the US, I also benefited from the US healthcare system because I have health insurance. But when you go to the hospital, I tell people medicine, law, banking, there's one thing that keeps it going: trust and confidence. You trust that your doctor or your nurse knows what they're doing. That's why you go to the hospital. If you don't trust that your doctor and your nurse knows what they're doing, you end up self-medicating. But because people trust the healthcare system, that's why they run to the hospital when they're sick. And that trust and confidence gets eroded with these kinds of scandals, with people doing these things. It's the same thing with the justice system. People trust that the lawyers, prosecutors know what they're doing when they go to the court or go to the law for relief, for remedy. If they don't trust the justice system, that's when you have mob violence. That's when you have mob justice. That's when people take the law into their hands. That's when you have a society that ends up being chaotic. It's the same thing with the banking sector. People trust that banks trust that when they give you loans, you will pay it back. If you don't pay it back, that's when interest rates gets high. Banks don't give loans or makes it difficult to give loans. People also trust that when they put their money in the banks, they can get it out whenever they want. When they can't get it out, ATM's not giving money. Every ATM in the country down. You go to the bank, you got to stand on lines for hours. People start keeping money under their beds. Trust and confidence in these systems is what keeps the system going. It's what keeps the wheels going. And so things like this scandal around what Stanton is accused of in his nursing school and the 25 others erodes trust and confidence and affect the lives of people. And I think people who do these things must be punished according to the law. They must have the day in court. If they're found guilty, they must do the time. You do the crime, you do the time.
Let me infuse a question before we get to Johnson here really quick. I asked this question yesterday to another legal mind, and I wanted to ask you this question. Most recently, we've had Liberians in African at large, but I want to restrict it to Liberians, such as Sheikh Bashir. We've had former Minister Nathaniel McGill, Bill Twawe, Serena Sifas, Prince Johnson, Senator, one of the other older senator as well, Vanny Shimmer, and most recently we've had Stanton Witherspoon. They seem to have made national news, and Daniel Cassell as well. The late Daniel Cassell, thank you for that. We've had all of these gentlemen indicted at the very highest level of crimes. What about the Ministry of Justice, by whoever you want to call it in the United States? And it's gone international. What does that say about us as Liberians? What does that say about Liberia? How does that reflect and impact us and our relationship with the world at large? What do you say?
So let me clarify one thing or two. There's a difference between Stanton, Bashir, and the late Daniel Cassell indictment versus Nathaniel McGill, Bill Torrey, Prince Johnson, and Vanny Sherman sanctions. Sanctions can be a political tool. There are investigations that are done, and most times they have the evidence as well, but it's mostly a political tool that is used against persons outside of the United States who are committing certain acts that the US government does not endorse, and they don't want to have any association with these persons of a different nationality. And then there's the issue with the Stantons and Bashir and the late Cassell on US soil, who are committed crimes that they are indicted for, alleged to have committed. And what the indictment is that we have probable cause, sufficient evidence that these people committed these crimes. So when you read an indictment, they usually say the grand jury of wherever place finds more probable than not that the defendant did commit these crimes and the listed crimes. So what that means is with the sanctions, the US government's not taking these people to court. They're letting your government do their investigations and come up with criminal. Indictment is criminal. Indictment is criminal. You're accused of committing grievous crimes, and they're going to prosecute you for these crimes. Sanctions, the US government's not going to prosecute you for those acts. They're going to have your government investigate, and if they find that they're criminal in nature, your government can prosecute you outside of the US. Now, when you're on US soil like Stanton and others, the US government now will persecute you. So I just wanted to clarify those two. Now, what does it say about us as Liberians? It is not a good picture that we want to be painted of Liberians. You know, this is no indictment on Nigerians, and stereotypes can be dangerous. But you guys are in the US, and it's typical of most Americans when you mention Nigerians, even Liberians in Liberia, when you mention Nigerians, oh, 419 people. And I
Right.
tell people, it's not all Nigerians. I mean, my best friend and sister is a Nigerian. I have Nigerian friends and family who are some of the hardest workers, most, hardworking people with integrity and honor. But yet, they've all been put in this batch of all Nigerians are 419 people. What we don't want to happen to Liberians is for us to be put in the box of all Liberians are 419 people. And sometimes it just takes very few to get that label stuck on everybody else. So it is not a good picture. What you see happening, though, and I'll speak more to the social aspect of it, is the quest for fast money, fast life. What we need to understand as a people is that very few are able to make quick money. And even then, it's not quick. Now you have what you call the startup world, technology. You've had people who've been able to create companies and apps and products that in 2-3 years they can build, and some investor can come and buy for millions of dollars, and they make the money and they're on to the next. That's legit money. It may be fast, maybe in a space of 7 to 10 years, but there's a lot of work that go on behind the scene with these startup companies. You have people who are able to invest in stocks and bonds, and then once stock goes up, whether it's Tesla stocks or Apple stocks or whatever, and they're able to get the payouts and they get good money out of it. You may think it's fast, 7, 10 years. And then you have people who have to work over 40 years for the wealth, like Mr. Cummings. People work hard. If you listen to the story of wealthy people, the Oprah Winfreys of the world, it took them years to build their wealth. The Dangotes of the world, it took them years to build their wealth. Building wealth takes time. I always tell people you can't be a 22-year-old and trying to get or acquire the wealth of a 50-year-old. You might be lucky to start some business that can give you a quick bucks, but it takes time, it takes dedication, it takes integrity, honesty to make an honest living. This quest for fast life, for riches overnight, is what is pushing our people into fraud and fraudulent activities to make fast money. Most times, people who work hard for the money, they spend it very, very carefully. Now, there are people who work hard for the money and have legit money that are flamboyant. Everybody's different. But most people who work hard for the money and legitimately for the money, they're very, very careful how they spend their money. I've seen and I've realized over time working with Mr. Cummins and meeting several of his other friends that wealth is silent. Real wealth, true wealth is silent. You see a multi-millionaire sitting on a dinner table. Sometimes he's wearing a short trouser and slippers. People see Mark Zuckerberg wearing great t-shirt all the time and stuff. It's, yes, that t-shirt might probably be a few $100 or whatever, but you're not seeing a big gold chain slap on the middle of his neck. Like, you wouldn't see wealth that is loud. Now, artists, people in the entertainment industry, they have to do those things. They have to show out. It's part of all of that stuff. But people who really are wealthy and work for the money legitimately, wealth is silent. If you actually know like certain things, you might notice maybe from their shoes, from their watches, from their cars, or just other things. But in terms of the clothes, in terms of how they spend money, in terms of it's very silent. They're not flamboyant about it. They don't spend it recklessly. They don't give it out like that. They're very, very careful with how they spend their money, because to make money is hard. To make legit money is hard. To grow money is hard. And so I think this is or should be a lesson to all of us, especially Liberians in the diaspora, that our actions tend to reflect on an entire community. And if we're not careful, if more of these start to come up or be, exposed, maybe these others were exposed because of their spending habits, because of their involvement, because once you get into politics and in the limelight, a lot of things, attention get on you. Maybe there are those who are not yet in the limelight who are doing the same things. Just a caution to stop, because it ends up reflecting on an entire community of Liberians, both in the diaspora and outside of the U.S. So,
Thank you, Mariel. Thank you so much. Melbourne, do you have any question, or do you have time to take some calls before we move forward? Sekou?
Yes, I think I just take calls because I have few questions, but because of time, because our people out there, I think they want to talk to their daughter, their sister, and so on. So yeah, so let's just go to the line and take a few calls for right here in Liberia. So yes, so folks, this is how we let us say good evening to those of you that just joining us. You are live on the program, the SKTV, and on Truth FM 96.1 right here in Liberia. So 0778339682, please 1 minute. 077833.
So Melbourne, before you take
Yeah.
the first call, there,
Yeah.
some people send me messages. Somebody else wrote on here openly now that we should bring Maria on as a panel. To get lawyer on, I plenty of money. We now get money.
Yeah, because myself, I really want to ask us some questions, but that goes straight to the line. 0778339682, and you'll be live on Truth FM. 0778339682. Again, 0778339682. So while we're waiting the calls, and
So
Councilor,
while we're waiting for, I have a caller here from Liberia.
okay,
Please.
all right, that's good.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, hello?
You're live.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, good evening, Big Brother Sekou. And I want to say good evening to Brother Steve and my dear sister, Mariah Kula. This is Siliki Kuma, and I call you from Liberia, district number 2. And I just want to extend my congratulations message to my dear sister on her passing in the Supreme Court bar exam. Congratulations, my sister. We are proud of you. Thank you very much. Pertaining to your topic on our discussion, what we expect from the president on tomorrow, when we shall address the nation tomorrow. Of course, we expect nothing, but they're gonna, when you not get it or do plenty of bad things, and at the end of the day, they're gonna put a whole lot of sweet things in our message over there tomorrow. And as Liberians, and wait to hear from the president tomorrow. Nothing good will be over there. So lies as usual, and we don't expect anything because they're gonna put plenty of lies over there tomorrow. Things that they are not doing. As you all are aware, they did 292 promises, and then they were only able to do 8% of the promises that they did. So we are government already failed. We're not discussing that. And pertaining to what my sister was saying is so true. Nobody will work hard for that money and then just be dashing money on people because they are humanitarian or whatsoever. Senator Waterspoon came to Liberia. I'm not trying to mock the big brother. When he came to Liberia, they got spent a lot of money recklessly. They gave 6,000 plus to CEO, the intellectual center that on KVH. 6,000 United States dollars. When you go to CEO today, they can't even tell you what they do with that money. It is there, no good internet, nothing they can tell you with that money. And they never did any follow up to know what they did with that money because you know why? They were just wasting money. And this is a clear indication. The less of Cassell and the other Liberians have been arrested. Of course, Liberians are wishing, prayers or whatsoever, but it's not going to be the case.
Thank you.
From my independent stand, it's actually true for what he did.
Let me drop the line.
Prosecuted. So thank you very much for the show.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, go ahead, Mabel.
Yeah, my brother, good evening. What's your name?
How are you?
Yeah, we are fine. Thank God. What's your name and from where you joining us?
Okay. I thank you for comment, but I had a problem with her, please.
He said, what's your name, please?
My name is I'm calling you from service.
Okay, go ahead.
I said, I thank you guest, but I had problem with the serious guest.
Mm-hmm.
The environment has spoke well, it's understood. But one thing that I want to make clear, how you call the brother is member of the ANC. I mean, he was member of the CC before. He left the CC, he joined the ANC, then come back to Major. Major is posted. Why did he do that? But I hear from Morayo that he told them that I was going to meet George Weah, but meet George Weah for another weekend.
All right, so she's going to answer that. Hello? Hello? Yeah, my brother, good evening. Go ahead. What's your name? Okay, go ahead. All right, thank you so much. To this caller, no time, please. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, my brother, good evening. What's your name and from where you joining us? Yeah, go ahead, Abida. No time.
Yeah, no time. I'm making number with Mariah, please.
He said?
I want to talk to Mariah, please.
Yeah, but go ahead, talk.
Go ahead, she's listening. Oh, yeah, it's okay. Talk to her. She's listening. All that time taking her to say that one.
The message want to see your personal. But anyway, just go to ANC party. Yeah, so or maybe you go to the CPP. Yeah. So we gotta go. No time here in Liberia. So I want the people to to listen to their young counselor. But quickly, counselor, before you go to the colors, this is my point, because the president's fifth annual address, he talked about peace. He praised Liberians, home and abroad, and we are going to this election 2023 October 10th, and with this call about raking elections, some dissatisfaction, and also the chief of staff coming up by telling Liberians that we have to be mindful, we got to protect the peace. In fact, they will not give chance to anyone that want to disturb the peace. I don't know how you people seeing that as opposition.
So I'm not sure I got the question correctly. You're saying that with the conversations around the possibilities of rigging elections and the opposition saying they won't support anyone wanting to disturb the peace, how do we what?
Yes, the chief of staff said that they won't support anybody disturbing the
The
peace
staff
of
of the
Liberia.
army.
Yes.
Okay, that statement. First, let me say thank you to the callers. I was struggling to hear some of them because the line isn't too clear. Was there any particular question I needed to respond to? I know there was the issue of Ben Senvi meeting the president. Someone said they were not happy with my comment. I said Ben's a stakeholder and he has the right to meet with the president. Was there another question that I needed to respond to? Because I couldn't hear most of them. And the caller who said he wanted to talk to me or see me, please give him my contact if you still remember the number he called on. But in response to your question, I listened to, I read the chief of staff statement that was posted, and I mean, I know the chief of staff. We started a cancer organization together, but I disagreed with that statement because one of the things that is very clear is that the army, unless called upon by the president, does not interfere or provide or gets deployed in the country. The army is to defend the country against external forces. The army can help the country in terms of maybe engineering work, helping with roads, bridges, and just being an army for the people like they've been doing in the past. But in terms of deploying and keeping the peace, that's not the function of the army. That's for the police. And I think that statement bordered on constitutionality of the army's role. And I think the chief of staff was either wrongly advised or the statement was not reflective of what the role of the army is in peacekeeping. The army can keep peace in other countries and can help fight external forces to help protect our borders and our country, but not to deploy against its citizens within the country unless as mandated or called on by the president, which I don't remember the president calling on the army for such. So to that point, I think that statement was ill-advised. However, though, the possibilities of rigging is real. Look, nobody just gives up power like that, especially when there's much to be, lost. A lot of our officials now have become rich people overnight. They've acquired assets that are questionable. They, now have a lifestyle that they have to maintain. And so giving all of that up easily, including the president, I mean, riding a private jet, building mansions, building 42 condominiums, in a convoy of over 30 cars, you name it, it's not something that he's going to give up easily. So the possibilities of that is high, which is why Mr. Cummings is very serious and focused on elections integrity and ensuring that all of the checkpoints are erected, all of the issues are called out around the elections, that the NEC is proceeding professionally, that all the timelines as given is followed, and implemented, that our partners are also involved in this process, and that we're going to call out every single time anything we see going wrong. So this is something that started months ago, as I mentioned earlier, with the whole thing with the magistrates. This is something that started with the biometrics, the selection of the company. And so we've been on top of all of that, and we'll continue to be. And this is also where the opposition can unite around issues of elections integrity and ensure that the government is held, the government feet is held to the fire, and that the neck is doing what needs to be done to minimize any kind of rigging or possibility of rigging. But in terms of the army coming in, again, like I said, I think I addressed that sufficiently. That's the role of the police, and something that.
Mariah, not to cut you off, let me jump in real quickly. Unlike other people, we have limited time on the radio. We have all the time to ourselves on Facebook. The time we have for the radio is just 2 hours, and we have gone over our time by 1 minute. So what we're going to do, we're going to let go. If the guys on the radio will continue with the show, because we got a lot of people that will still want to talk. We got a lot of people that are watching, and people calling from all over around the world. A lot of people watching on Facebook. So, Mr. Johnson Mimonkula and team, want to say thank you to all of you for making it possible. We'll be here tomorrow, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. So we'll continue with the show from our end here.
All right, so thanks to you guys and folks. So there you have it. The opportunity is here to join this station again. That will be tomorrow by the grace of God for the first edition of the program, the SKTV. Every matter of fact, we're going to be with you from 6 o'clock straight to 8 o'clock. So, folks, we so sorry that we can continue.
All right. So you may complete your thought. I have a caller here. I think this is from Europe. I believe it's a European number, but yeah, go ahead and complete that you were saying. Then I can take the next call.
Right. Yeah, no, so I was just concluding, I think I've dealt that sufficiently. The Army cannot come in to handle domestic, threats or to keep the peace unless called upon by the president. And I don't remember the president calling upon the Army to do that. And so I think the chief of staff statement was either ill-advised or premature. Now, if the president had called upon the Army to do that, then yeah, that would be in line. But look, elections, it's also all of us responsibility to ensure that the elections are free and fair. If you see things happening in your community, I know there were cases of people creating voter registration cards in their communities. In their homes, the police were called. Those people were taken to court, and I think a few of them were persecuted. And so we all have to be vigilant. We all have to report these things when we see them happening, and they will happen. There will be people bringing in, I know some NEC workers were involved in that as well. We'll be giving people the voter registration card, the equipment people having in the communities, in their homes, and they'll be creating fake voter cards and all of that. If you see it happening, report it. It is all of us' responsibility to ensure that elections are free and fair. It is not the people's thing. It is not the people's thing. It is all of us' thing. Because trust me, elections have consequences. And those consequences, no matter who you are, we all feel it. We may feel it at different levels, but we all feel it. When times are hard, we all feel the pinch. when gas price goes up, when food prices go up, when transportation prices go up, we all feel the pinch. When civil servant salaries are cut, harmonization, even if you're not working in government, you feel the pinch because your uncle, your auntie who are working in government, who could afford and now can't afford anymore, will be calling you. So you got to take something from a small salary or whatever you're making outside the government to help. Everybody feeling the pinch. So elections have consequences. When you give people a job that they're unable to do and productivity level falls below ultimate, we all feel the pain. So it's not the people's thing. You see something happening around the elections, they're about to start voter registration in March. You see something happening, report it, document it. Not everybody got a smartphone, everybody got camera on the phone, record it, document it, report it to the police. Make sure that you own this process. Regardless of who you're supporting, own this process. Make it your thing and ensure that it's free, fair, and transparent. Because tomorrow we say, oh, the people rigged the election. Oh, they won't happen. Opposition, you do that one. Opposition, you do that one. That all the other thing. Do your part.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. So let's take this caller here. I think this is from, it looks like it's a European number. Caller on WhatsApp. What is your name?
Hello, bro. Sekou. My name is Abraham. I'm calling from Europe, Norway, to be specific.
From Norway. Thank you for joining us from all the way Norway. What is your question for Councillor Mariah Yakula?
No, definitely. I'm sorry. It is not a question. I just wanted to congratulate Mariah for her achievement and also for essaying the Spoon Network. And I hope that.
No, we lost you. We're not hearing you.
I'm saying that I wanted to congratulate Mariah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let me just say congratulations to you, Duete, for your achievement. And also, thanks for leaving the Spoon Network. And I hope Dr. Richardson will follow suit.
Oh. Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, we hear you.
Are
We
you
hear you.
getting me?
We hear you. Thank you. Thank you. Is that all? Is that it, or you want to say something else?
Yeah, I just want, and also I want to greet my Barcelona friend and Steve.
Oh.
I know Sekou,
I can't cut you. I can't cut you off now with that Barcelona thing. I can't cut you off right now. All right. Thank you. All right, my bro. Thank you. So let's take another caller here. Caller, what is your name and where you calling from? 515 number. Last 4 DJ is 4100.
So hello, Steve, and this is Japa Maxwell, folks.
Me and not Steve. Me and Sekou.
Oh yeah.
If you Barcelona fan too, let me know. Let me cut you off quickly.
Okay, all right.
Barcelona fan too.
I come block you.
On her passing of the bar exam as counselor.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Mariah. This is Japa. So let me make my input here about what Mariah said quite recently when the question was posed to her. You know, I believe there is an opposition in Liberia, but I just don't believe that there is a stronger opposition in Liberia to make things happen with regards to compromising anything in the country, with regards to violating the Constitution. When she talked about if there will be delays and the National Election Commission does not follow its own timetable, there will be constitutional crisis after October. Look, and my argument is premised on the question Sekou asked when the president stayed out of the country for almost 2 months. There are opposition lawmakers that we have in both houses, and the argument that every time there is a violation and citizens are clamoring or expressing their disenchantment and talking about protests and demonstrations, people see it as wanting to overthrow the government. No, every democratic action is not to overthrow violently an elected government. But there are processes that can be followed. Now, I was just talking about opposition lawmakers in both houses. We know the president violated the Constitution in leaving the country abandoned and the country in the midst of crisis. What did those opposition lawmakers do? Why wouldn't they proffer an impeachment proceeding, except that all of them have been compromised? There is no principle. They have no values to respect to make sure the president keeps as held to the fire. And so when Mariah and other people come on national radio and talk about, oh, why you want us to do that violation of the Constitution? Yes, we agree, but what we should overthrow, we know it's not every democratic tenant action that the citizens SONA case should be seen as wanting to overthrow a sitting government violently.
Thank you.
We have our constitutional right to call on the president to either step down. That is constitutional. It's within the framework of the Constitution. It's within the framework of our fundamental rights. So every action should not be seen. And when people talk about this facing the public to the public, it's a negative signal. Oh, they want to overthrow the president.
I want you to learn if you can. But anytime when somebody talk, when I say thank you, I mean I want you to. Yeah, please. Thank you. You made a point, my brother. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
So
Sekou.
all the callers, when you're talking, when you hear me say thank you, I don't want to cut you. It means that just wrap up right away, please, so that we can have time for other people. I think this is Thomas King, our brother from I don't know, Illinois. Are you there, Dr. King?
Yes. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. What is your question for Councillor Yakula?
I want to say congratulations to you, Councillor Yakola. I'm Dr. King. And I want to say I'm Dr. King, Bachelor Surgeon over here speaking. I'm a Liberian. And I will tell you,
your voice went low. After you say that, I can't. I don't want to. We can hear. Okay, now we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. I'm Dr. King. I'm a vascular surgeon in Illinois. And one of my proudest moments in the hospital is when I tell people I'm a Liberian and I'm a Liberian. Because most people don't know our country, okay? And the nurses in every hospital make up the doctor. The best nurse you have, the better it is for your patients, the better it is for you to go through things. So I feel that as Liberians, even though we're not in our country, wherever we go, it must be our duty to make sure people get to know the good things of our country. Okay, because right now, even if things like these are going on in the United States, I cannot even imagine what is happening to our people back home when it comes to health care. So I'm hoping whoever wins this presidency in a democratic setting, hoping that it's try to pay more attention to health care in our country, and that we have more people who are capable of providing exceptional care to our people. Thank you for everything you do, and Sekou, thank you for the day.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you very much. Let's take another caller, then we'll go to the councillor. Caller, what is your name and where you calling from? The last 4 DJ is 8510.
Yeah, Sekou, thank you. This is Bokai Hera calling from Iowa, Waterloo.
Welcome. What is your question for the councillor?
I just want to congratulate the councillor. She's I can always call her the Eddie Justice of our time.
Oh,
congratulations, wow. Mariah. You have people admire you here and the way you handle issues and everything. I pray to God that God is going to give you more wisdom, that things will be well for you. So thank you for being strong. Your advocacy, people are following you, where you handle the issues and everything. And I just want to say something, Sekou.
Go ahead.
There's a caller that call and say opposition leaders in the house are not doing nothing. Let's give flowers to who flowers are due. We have people that are being speaking out loud. For instance, Darius Dillon have been doing well. Though I might not be in his camp, but he has been speaking, and he's one or two lawmakers. You have one or two lawmakers that have been fighting, especially when the president stayed out of the country for the 9 days when he came back. They have been fighting, but majority of the people that call themselves opposition, they are being bought by the CDC government. So nothing else can be done. In the house, you need the majority to make sure that work is done. Minority can never win in the house. So they have been doing well. Darius did not have been doing well, along with few senators have been doing well. But they are not enough. This is the time we Liberians, as we go to the poll, that will be able to elect people, credible people, that will go into that house and make sure that things will be better out there. That take for instance that the economy will be better. That when the economy is not doing well, they will pour the president into the fire and bring them in. So, Mariah, thank you again. Congratulations, man. Continue working hard. The early justice series of our time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So we were saying we were leaving, but people still calling me. I think this is Victor from Dallas. My brother Victor. Victor, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
There are people that got their number saved. They're my friends and brothers. They got their number, so I don't need to ask them where you coming from, where are you. I don't do that. I just call your name straight. Yeah, Victor, what's up, man? How you doing? Welcome.
I'm well. Brother Sekou, I want to thank you for bringing Sis Maria on, and I want to thank you guys for the platform. But I'm just calling to just give a voice. It's an appeal. It's not Libyan. You know, when I hear some of our brothers saying comments is greedy, I'm a UP supporter. I'm GNP supporter, strong supporter. You know that. But when they say comments is greedy, I look at them and just laugh. Which leader is not greedy? Any leader that wants to win will always be greedy. Okay, he's a great leader. Okay, but what I'm asking that I bring people, and it says Maria, please take it to comments from me. Look, we want you guys to vote that behind closed door. Okay, and try to work things out. JMB and the standard comments. Because after JMB in just few years, comments will be the best part to move that country forward. Can you leave the country with paying weed or few senators over there? What we have? The same judge we have. Okay? So JMB and comments will be the best tickets for us. Look, let me tell you something. We can, this tournament is dirty. But sometimes because of the country's sake, we come together and work things out. Please, Maria, please talk to your boss. God bless you. God bless this show. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please talk to your boy to go be vice president for George for Mr. Barker. Caller, what is your name and where you calling from? 267 number. Last 4 digits 6387.
Oh, good evening, Brother Sekou, and let me say good evening to Brother Steve, and let me say thank you to the counselor for achievement. I have 2 questions for the counselor.
Yeah, quickly.
The first question is it legally okay for CEO Senator Witherspoon to appear on his Spoon Talk show with the indictment or allegation hanging over him? And my second question is to the counselor. I want to know if she was on the payroll at the time she was with the Spoon Talk show. Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much. Well, I think this person will be the last caller now. Caller.
Yes, you answered once, then you take the next batch.
Okay. Folks, if you are on hold, please just stay there. I know many of you are on hold already. Just wait there. The counselor is willing to take your call. So you're listening. Let's you respond to the callers that have already called, and then we'll get back to you on the line. So once I answer your phone, it means that you are in the queue. Stay there. I will call your last 4 digits of your number. If you know your name, I will call your name. Then you will ask your question. Please be patient and listen. Go ahead.
The lines are busy. But let me answer the last question first. No, Stanton has never paid me a dime to appear on his show or for the time I was on his show. Not a dime, not even to buy me scratch card or data. Not a penny have I been paid. I cannot speak to whether other panelists were paid, but I, Councillor Mariah Kaudwede Yakula, was never, ever paid to appear on Spoon or to be a panelist. On the question about whether he should recuse himself from the show until, yes, I think he should. While these are allegations that he should have the opportunity to face in court, I also think it brings a cloud on the show, on the platform. Mind you, when I was on the show and even after I left or before I got on, that platform discussed issues of corruption and fraudulent activities by certain government officials and lack of integrity and a lot of issues within our society that were discussed on that show. And so for someone to have the authority, I believe the moral authority to discuss those issues, they should not have a cloud of fraud and other criminal indictment on their shoulders. So I think the right thing to do until he's faced the law, clear his name, had his day in court, is to recuse himself from the show, because it will be the best thing to do in these circumstances. The other caller that talked about, she talked about boss to go as vice. I think people jump the gun when this conversation comes.
Actually, let me say, I'm the one who added the vice, but he said, talk to your boss, let the people come together. But because I know him, I know what he has been writing on Facebook, he wants Cummings to be vice president to Yusen Mabwaka. That's why I added that he's my friend and brother. So that's what he wants. He didn't say
So
that.
to that question, to that comment, I think the question is: has Boyka ever asked Cummings to go as vice to him? I don't think a lot of people ask that question. Um, there has been no time that Ambassador Boyka has asked Mr. Cummings to go as vice president to him. So I don't think we should be discussing that issue. And every time people, and we get that sometimes, there are people who say if Mr. Cummings goes as vice to Ambassador Boyka, will not support him. But there are people who also say they should come to get Mr. Cummings should go as vice. And the question is, have you asked Ambassador Boyka if he's asked Mr. Cummings to go as his vice? That is a personal decision that presidential candidates make, because when they make those decisions, the choice of the vice president are usually people who they trust, who they want to work with, who there's a relationship between the president and the vice president that makes that decision the prerogative of the presidential candidate. And so I think when we're having these conversations, or when people, and I read sometimes people blaming Mr. Cummings, oh, he doesn't want to go as vice. And I ask, do you want him to go on his knees to go be begging to be vice to someone? Who's on whose shoulders does this rest? Who's supposed to ask who to be vice to them? If you want Mr. Cummings to go as vice to Ambassador Boyka, have you asked yourself as Ambassador Boyka asked Mr. Cummings? Well, so he won't agree to go as vice. I say, agree to what? Has there ever been a request? There's never been a request. And so to that point, I would say the issue about being vice president or not, that's a personal decision that Ambassador. What if Ambassador Boyka doesn't want Mr. Cummings to be his vice? Has anybody thought about that? What if he doesn't want to work with Mr. Cummings? He doesn't want Mr. Cummings to be his vice. Nobody thinks about that. And so that is not on Mr. Cummings. That is on Ambassador Boyka. If he wants Mr. Cummings to be his vice or not, if he asks Mr. Cummings, then you can say, oh, Mr. Cummings agreed or he didn't agree. But in the absence of that, that's a personal decision that Ambassador Boyka will have to make. I know there are tons of other people who are angling to be his vice. And I don't think anybody expects Mr. Cummings to go fight to be someone's vice. Until Mr. Cummings is running to be president of Liberia, and we are supporting Mr. Cummings to be president of Liberia, and we're very sure that Mr. Cummings is going to be successful as president of Liberia. Now, should the opposition work together? I said it before. Yes, they should. And I've said it all through the show. There are several other issues that the opposition can unite around. The issues of elections integrity, ensuring that the elections are free, fair, and transparent, that NEC does what they're supposed to do, that this government ensures that there are no rigging or the possibilities of rigging are drastically reduced, that our partners are involved in this process to ensure that it's free and fair, and whoever wins on the free and fair ballot. Those are things that the opposition can work around, can work together on, and they should work together on it. But in terms of someone being a vice, the standard bearer, the presidential candidate, is the one who makes that call, who makes that decision. And I think we're asking or pointing fingers to the wrong person. We should be asking Ambassador Boyka whether he actually wants Mr. Cummings to be his vice, or whether he's even asked Mr. Cummings to be his vice in the last 3, 4, 5 years. That's, to the best of my knowledge, that has never happened. On the issue of the lawmakers in the House not doing anything, and, when we say overthrowing the government, it's wrong, and we're putting fear in the people, I think there was a caller that called to that effect. Let me be very clear. It is the constitutional right of the people to protest. The conversation was not around protest. The conversation was around overthrowing And I made it clear that the opposition I support, Mr. Cummings, will never overthrow or support the overthrow of a sitting president. He will support the democratic rights of Liberians to remove that president to the ballot box or through other democratic processes, including impeachment in the legislature. But I also said, given how the legislature is set up, impeachment of the president is close to impossible, and so we'll focus on the ballot box. Overthrowing was the conversation. It was not about protest. I am a big supporter of protests. It is constitutionally mandated that the people shall express their disagreements with the government through protests. And so I will never discourage protests. In fact, I've been a part of several protests in this country. But that's not what the conversation was about. The conversation was about the president being out of the country, and the opposition did not do anything. And I asked you, do you mean overthrow? And they said yes. And I said that's not going to be the focus of the opposition. It is unconstitutional to overthrow your government through undemocratic means. There's, of course, several constitutional prohibitions around that. So overthrow was the conversation, and this opposition that I'm a part of would not support. As a matter of fact, would not support, Mr. Cummings would not support any overthrow of a sitting president. Mr. Cummings will become president of Liberia through the ballot box. And that was my conversation around that issue. As to protest, we support protests. We'll always support protests. It is the constitutional right of our people. So it is not to scare people. It is to ensure that we differentiate between overthrowing, coup d'etats, and protests. Lastly, as to the lawmakers in the House not doing anything or being bought by the government, and I said it the last time, this is not to absolve lawmakers of their responsibilities. And yes, there are a few of them who are doing what they can. And he mentioned Senator Dillon as one. I have personal differences with Senator Dillon and his character as an individual, as a person, and I've been very vocal about it. He knows where we came from, and he knows what our issues are. But I will also be the first to recognize that he does try to speak up and hold the government accountable on some issues. So I agree with the caller on that. But there's also other senators, Senator Borchas, also of the ANC, River G County. He also does that as well. He may not have the social media notoriety or popularity, or so he does that. Yeke Koluba also holds the government accountable. He has his own methods that we all may not agree with, but he's also a very vocal critic of the government. And there are quite a few. But in terms of the majority, yes, they're not doing enough. And most times people try to hold the parties, accountable. What are your lawmakers not doing this? What are you doing? Stuff like that. And I mentioned last time when I was on Spoon, we do not have proportional representation. Proportional representation, the last time we had it was 25 plus years ago under former President Charles Taylor. And what that is the party nominates the lawmaker to represent the county or the district and send them to the legislature. So that lawmaker is accountable to the party, because if the lawmaker does not follow the mandates of the party or what to vote for or not to vote for, the party can remove that person and nominate someone else. So under proportional representation, most of the lawmakers felt like they had a sense of responsibility to the party, and the party could control what those things were that the lawmakers would support or not support. Unfortunately, depending on who you speak to, we don't have that system anymore. Our lawmakers are elected by the people, even though on the party's ticket. So by the time they win on the party's ticket, they don't have any sense of accountability to the party anymore. The claim is now to the people who elected them. I'll give you a quick example. When
I want you to, because we still have more questions to answer. We have 4 people we are waiting on the line. 4 people.
Right. I'll soon end. When the $30,000 happened and Mr. Cummings condemned it and called it political corruption, for which some lawmakers got upset with him and they even did a statement against him for that. Some of the excuses we got from some of the lawmakers were, my people say I should take the money, I should go build a bridge, or I should go build hand pump, or I should go do something for them in the district. My people say I should take the money. They said the responsibility was to their people and not to the party. Now, the party can either suspend them, expel them, or not carry them on the ticket for the next elections, which is 6 years later or 9 years later. But until then what happens? And so there's a balance there in terms of how far the party can even go versus who the lawmakers think they are important to. Now, you ask the people, whether you're in the district, you're in the county, whether it's senator or representative, now the responsibility is on you to hold your lawmakers accountable, which we don't do as much. Yes, they will come to the districts and the counties and have meetings, but you can also go to the Capitol building, to the offices in droves, en masse, and protest their actions and hold them accountable and cite them to explain to you why they're doing what they're doing and why they're making certain decisions that they're making. So, I just wanted to clarify that in terms of where the balance of power was.
All right, thank you so much. So, folks, if you're on hold, the 4 people that are on hold right now, unless Steve has a caller, those will be the last 4 people. Please, nobody else should call now. I will not take any more calls. Those that are on hold, I'm going to call you one by one. You ask your question briefly. Maximum time you will get will be 1 minute maximum. If you can do it, but in 30 seconds, we appreciate it. So this looks, they won't look like a European number, but there's a WhatsApp number. The caller on the WhatsApp line, what is your name and where are you calling from?
Hello?
Yes.
This is Hassan M. Kamara calling from China.
Hassan M. Kamara calling from China.
Yeah.
Welcome to SKTV. What is your question for Councilor Mariah Yakula?
Yeah, first of all, I would congratulate her for achievement. My question going to our sister is, I have 2 questions. My first question is, because the last time she was on Spoon TV, I vividly recorded that she said that anybody who stand against her in court or testify against her in court, she can never be friend to that person. So what I'm trying to see, my question goes now, my question here is, if JNB happen to go with George Weah in the second round, is she going to vote for JNB as JNB has stand against her Kennedy in court before? That's my first question. My second question is, JNB and Kumi met in Ghana. They sat there in a small, tete-a-tete meeting. Can she tell her what was the outcome of that meeting as a chief of staff of Kumi?
Thank you.
Because what we were told that was because of who should be the running mate of JNB. That's why they went to discuss. So let's just elaborate on it for us, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, and thank you for patiently waiting. So we will go to the next caller here. Like I said, 4 people. One is out. Hold the line, please.
Oh, okay.
If I don't call your name, I don't call your number, please hold the line. Sekou Dukle from Phoenix, I guess. Sekou, are you there?
Yeah,
sorry for the long wait. Go ahead quickly. What is your question for the councilor?
No problem. It's important. But somebody's still on the line. Can the person give me a chance to say what I want to say, because somebody takes.
Nobody talking. Just listen to me. Everybody listening to you right now. Maybe you're listening to a recording.
Okay, thank you. Hello to SKTV family first, and I appreciate your show. I want to ask the council questions, and the question goes like this. We all want betterment for Liberia, and I see other people supporting GMB and supporting ANC, Mr. Kuma, and Mr. Barker, and other candidates. I think we all want for better Liberia. So if the oppositions, this question go to the council. If the opposition not come together, can we win this government in place right now that we all crying with the government said they're not doing better, and we want better government to come in? So the question goes to the councillor, what are the plan if Joseph Walker and Mr. Kuma did not agree to run to move George Weah? Because they are the 2, I think 2 candidates where everybody be looking at. In the diaspora, you see Kuma people, you see Joseph Walker people.
But what is the play if Joseph Walker and Kume cannot come together? But who is Kume's vice president that will be running with him as a vice president?
Thank you.
President.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Okay, now we're going to be taking the last two people. No, this person. Nobody should call again, please. Let's deal with the four people. People keep calling, but they don't listen. Prince, I think this is Prince. Prince, are you there? No. That many Prince again. One Prince answering for the other sound. Okay, the person with 763 number, I don't know your name. Maybe your name, Prince. I'm speaking to the other Prince here from the other phone. Prince, what is your question for the councillor? Welcome to SKTV.
Well, thank you very much, Segu. Thanks so much. And Councillor Yakula, thank you very much. Congratulations. Thank you so much. And looking forward to many great things. And my question to you, Councillor, do you see yourself someday becoming an Attorney General in the next coming government? And second, the follow-up question is, I learned that I've been hearing that there have been some degree of difficulty and bubble around the party leader, Alexander Cummings, and people have been finding it difficult to have access to him or to communicate with him. And most people have been blaming it on you, and they said that you are micromanaging, as an individual, managing things in a way that creates that bubble around the party leader. How do you respond to that, and how do you address that? I asked this question in specific reference to an individual that, as a desperate attempt trying to communicate to you, because several attempts trying to reach you and couldn't make it, he has to come on a public forum to express such difficulties. So how will you address it, and how do you see it, and where will you respond to that? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Finally, the last caller. Okay, caller, man. What people are calling? I'm sorry, man. Hey, caller, 763 number. Are you there? 9979. People keep calling, but those are calling now. We're not going to take the call. Hey, you got to tune down the monitor and they turn to your phone. 763 number. Hello? 763 number. We tune down your monitor and listen to the phone. Okay, yeah, but you got to tune down the monitor so it can't interrupt. Okay, what is your name and where you calling from? Listen to your phone. Forget about the monitor. Where are you calling from and what is your name?
I'm Melvin Logan. I'm calling from Fargo, North Dakota.
Melvin, go ahead quickly. What is your question for the councillor?
Yeah, thank you very much, Sekou. Thank you, Steve, my own nephew. Councillor Mariah, thank you very much. Here, this is that question. I just want to ask you to emphasize the fact that the Georgia government has done the work. No hospital, people dying, no rights in this country, no affordable cleaning, and all of those things. How can you better amplify the first 100 days of Kumi administration? What kind of development do you see that you want to tell the Liberian people that you will find the experience in Kumi 100, the first 100 days? Thank you.
Thank you. I said that was the last caller, but one person, I don't even know that woman that maybe kept harassing. But I answered the call, but the person hang up by themselves. So please, no more call. Councillor Yakula, back to you. Please briefly run through all the questions because we don't want to keep you forever. This is your first time. We don't want to bore you. Then you're like, oh, you know what? I'll go with the book and hope you would too much.
That's okay. So you're taking the other two callers?
No. I will. It's okay now. The guy they put a hang out, so it's fine. They hung up? Yeah, so it's good.
Okay. So let me go back. I was taking notes. Let me start with last to first. My phone battery shouldn't die. Okay. So first to last, I'll start. So I think one of the callers talked about, I said, if anybody takes me to court, I will not be friends with them. And so would I support Mr. Boykai if he goes to the second round, because he testified against my political leader. Yeah, I did say if anybody testified against me in court, we're not going to be friends again. But I also was very clear that it doesn't mean we can work together. We don't have to be friends to work together. I don't even have to like you to work with you once we have a mutual cause that we're working towards. And let me digress a bit. There's this tendency in Liberia, whether it's in the Liberian community or in Liberia, for people to want to be friends with their workmates, with their classmates, with their schoolmates, with their football players, soccer, like fellow playmates. It's almost like because we want to be friends with everybody, we don't value friendship. We don't really understand what friendship is. Before I call you my friend, that has to be like, there has to be something there. That friendship should transcend whatever space we're in at that particular time and place. What am I saying? If you're my schoolmate and I call you my friend, we should remain friends even after we graduate from school. If you're my workmate and I call you my friend, we should remain friends even after I leave that workplace and start a new job. If you're my playmate on the teammate, and I call you my friend, we should remain friends even after I've left that team. But if that friendship is only in that space that we're in, then you're not my friend. And so I always tell people, when I go into a new space, when I go to a new job, I don't go to make friends. Now, if friendship comes out of our work relationship, then that's great. There are places I've worked, there are people who I worked with, we're cool, but we don't really talk anymore since I left that workplace. But there are people who I left there and we're still friends. We still meet outside of that workplace. We still hang out. We still call each other. We still visit each other. We still attend each other events. That's friendship, right? But I think there's this tendency in our space to always use this word friendship, be friends, and we end up misusing it. Friendship is deep. Friendship is, at least for me, right? So there are other words you can use to describe your relationship with people, though. They can be acquaintances. They can be workmates. They can be classmates. They can be schoolmates. They can be colleagues. We need to get accustomed to using those other words to describe our relationships with people who we work with or we interact with or we see all the time, and not always say friends or friendship. And so to clarify, yes, if you are my friend and you testify against me, you're not my friend anymore. You can be my colleague. We can work together. We can work on the project, on a cause. We can support each other around that cause, but you're not going to be my friend anymore. So I hope that answers the question. And no, Ambassador Borgia didn't testify against me. He did testify against my boss. That's between he and my boss, or whatever they choose to do with their friendship. But personally, I just wanted to make that clear. On the other, and oh yes, I mean, if it comes down, I am 100% sure Mr. Cummings is going to go into the runoff with whoever goes into the runoff, whether it's CDC or UP. Mr. Cummings is going to be in the runoff, so I will be supporting Mr. Cummings. But in the unlikely case where it's Ambassador Boyka and the CDC, for me, it's anybody but Josh Weir. So let's just be clear. The second question was about clarifying what the meeting in Ghana was, and you told us about VP. I was very clear in my first statement. It wasn't about Mr. Cummings being VP. He's never been asked to be VP, but I think what you would want to discuss or be interesting is what happened after that meeting in Ghana. We saw the bogus charges that was brought against Mr. Cummings from Mr. Ure and the ALP, supported by the Unity Party. We saw Mr. Cummings dragged in court for 6 months without any evidence of the claims and allegations against him. We saw international credible organizations do their own independent forensic investigation and found that those charges were bogus and it never happened, and that the framework was actually sent to all of the parties. They acknowledged receipt, they saw it, and we saw Ambassador Boyka testify against Mr. Cummings in a bogus case. We saw everything that happened. So let's not have selective memory around what we want to remember, because these things happened, and it actually should never have happened. There are several ways of, if the Unity Party wanted to get out of the CPP, that could have been done. But the intent was actually to drag Mr. Cummings down, to limit his chances of winning the elections, to paint him as this person that he's not. And I think that's part of our problem in politics. People do the most egregious things. People do the worst things to each other. And then we say, oh, that politics. Oh, Jeff, forget it. I remember when I said that on Spoon, about someone not being my friend again, someone said, that one that Eddie Johnson said, if they can forgive. I'm sorry, it's not about forgiveness. It's about people understanding that there are consequences to their actions. And because we so easily, and this is a conversation to have at another day, Sekou, but the things that we tolerate in politics, we don't tolerate it in other professions or careers, if I should say. If people acted the way they acted in politics, in law, you will be reprimanded by the board. You'll be taken to the Judicial Inquiry Committee if you're a judge. If you're a lawyer, you'll be taken. You know, there structures in place to penalize these actions. But when it comes to politics, it's almost like anything goes. Yeah. People can be the worst kinds of human beings. And we say, oh, that politics. No, that's what has made our politics dangerous. That's what has made our politics, dirty. That's what has made our politics what it is. And we should not, as a people, condone those kinds of behaviors and put it on politics and say, oh, that politics. No, it's not. It is individuals' own character, their own person, the lack of integrity. That's what it is. And we should not encourage that because it's politics. So let me just go on to this next question that talked about Mr. Cummings not, access to Mr. Cummings or me micromanaging Mr. Cummings. I think I talked about this earlier in terms of my challenges as being chief of staff. What I also need to emphasize is I'm not the only person around Mr. Cummings. It's not like he's in a bubble. So he has a deputy chief of staff. He has an administrative assistant. There's an office number that we give to people to call as well, that the receptionist picks up and stuff and makes appointments. People walk in all the time. They sign the form. Mr. Cummings is at the party headquarters or at the campaign headquarters. It's not like Mr. Cummings is in my handbag. I'm sorry. Now, if there are challenges with getting to me, I do have to admit that there are times I'm not very responsive with my phone calls and my text messages. I signed up to do this and I'm committed to doing it, but I'm also human. And there are times it's difficult to keep up with all of the volume of calls and would take time to get back to people. And so I can apologize for that and I can work on it. And I also want to say for the record, the last month during my exam, I did take time off. It wasn't announced publicly, so people were still calling and trying to get me, and I was not responsive because I was studying for my bar exams. But I'm back at work now, and I will try as much as possible to keep up with the load of messages that come in. So I want to say that. And so if you've been trying to get in touch with me the last month while I was studying for my exam, I was off work. Mr. Cummings, I approved me being off work, and so I wasn't really answering calls and messages as that. The last caller talked about how do you call it, Mr. Cummings, 100 days. Look, WIA has just 1 second. I wanted to pull it up, but let me see if I can quickly. Give me 1 second. Some of these things are not offhand.
And while you do that, let me quickly say something while you do that. So, folks, we somebody recommended that what's his name? My brother Joseph Conto reminded me again to push to pin the Cash App number. That was a while ago, but somebody just sent $50 to SKTV, but the person is requesting to remain anonymous. They don't want their name to be called. But I want to say a big thank you to this person who sent SKTV $50. We appreciate it. Yeah, so the person put a note that they don't want their name to be called. People do that all the time. Yeah, but thank you. We appreciate it. We will not call your
Okay.
name, and it will be like that. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I have the first 100 days document here with me. And a couple of things will focus on infrastructure, jobs and the economy, governance and the rule of law, gender parity, youth inclusion, and persons with disability. So in the first 100 days, some of the things that Mr. Cummings plans on doing is to one, establish an economic stimulus program to provide microfinance schemes for new businesses and farmers in the first 100 days. To also convene a forum for farmers and agribusiness experts from across the country to discuss the issue of agriculture and agribusiness in terms of how to make recommendations on Liberia's agricultural sector as well. To launch a $20 million empowerment fund to support women and youth-owned businesses as well as farmers, because he's also big on agriculture. With that, he's not going to build roads in 100 days or all of the roads, but what they're going to do with the roads in 100 days is, and he talks about this a lot, there are hot spots. That means there are areas on like the highway where cars get stuck, where people sleep for days. Those areas usually always, almost all the time, rainy season gets muddy, deep muds and all that stuff. So the hot spots to try to fix those hot spots on the road until there can be funding to actually fix the entire highway. So that's something that they want to work on. He also wants to work on the Kesley Boulevard that connects 12th Street to Somalia Drive. That's that side of Monrovia to open up. There's a bridge that should be connecting 12th Street to Kesley Boulevard on that side. He's going to institute an adoption of a bi-Liberian procurement plan where government ministries and agencies will be mandated to buy that procurement. A certain percentage of all government procurement will be only for Liberian products and services, the Liberian procurement maintenance plan. And I'll try to be short. He also clearly going to try to appoint his entire cabinet within the first 100 days. I mean, it's a lot if you think about it. I think the president has to appoint about 300 persons or so, 260 or 300 persons. And we saw that under President Weah, even up to a year later, he still had not completed all of his appointments, which leaves gaps within the government and leads to low productivity. So that's very important. People don't think about it a lot. He's clearly going to initiate an audit of all government ministries, agencies, and commissions within the first 100 days. He said that he's going to announce commission and audit, have the legislature do that on his first 100 days. He's going to freeze all non-essential government travels, except those that are related to economic development objectives. And he's going to restrict all government travels to economy class to cut down on waste as well. He's going to, in his first 100 days, establish a Women's Economic Empowerment Council to make recommendations to the president on how to unlock economic empowerment for women and also on women issues, working also directly with the Ministry of Gender. He's going to establish a national youth service program. I know the Ministry of Youth and Sports have that, that's more ad hoc, but to institutionalize it, almost like what Nigeria has with the youth service, he's going to institute that in his first 100 days. And I mean, he's going to He says strengthen the integrity institutions, LSCC, GAC, PPCC, and internal audit. Those four institutions, remember, Madam Sharif had established those, but under President Weah, they have been weakened substantially. In order to fight corruption, those institutions have to have some teeth. And so he's going to try to do that. And he's going to commit to about 30% of his cabinet will be female when he appoints his cabinet in his first 100 days, about 30% to that. So these are some of his 100 days plans. I mean, I have the list here, and for time, I won't go through all of them. But we've already we already have an idea of what his 100 days is going to be like. And like I said, Mr. Cummings, geez, I almost said Mr. President. Mr. Cummings is ready to start from day one. And we're not joking about this. But yes, Mr. Incoming President, I claim it. But so good that the caller asked, and these are things that he's very passionate about.
Okay.
So you have a word for government.
Yeah. So, well, I think it has been an amusing conversation. This on SKTV, I've been thinking maybe you've been here before. I'm not sure, but you're being here today. I think it's very important. Was very fruitful. Um, my last question to you was similar to what that person asked, but mine is not in regards to the 100 days. My question is, if you will, because there are a lot of people who are supporting Mr. Cummings, who are around him, who you are one of the best person among them when it comes to communication. You speak directly, you speak eloquently, and you have understanding of the issue. You understand your subject you want to talk about. That's one of the secret for somebody who can speak eloquently. If you all over the place, not knowing what you're talking about, jumping from here and there, you get confused, and you confuse people that are listening to you. So you being that person, if you were to explain to the layman in a layman term, briefly, to make the case for Mr. Cummings, to convince somebody to vote for Cummings, to support Cummings for president, what will you tell them?
Thank you, Sekou. You know, when you put it like that now, but to be honest, there are several other people around me
You are one of.
who
There
are
are
you
some who are one of.
right?
There may be other people there, but
Yeah.
for the ones that are on the spotlight, the ones that are being on radio, on TV station, on social media, and you are very vocal. There may be other people there, but some people are holding back. You are very vocal.
I was just saying that when you put it at that thing, you put plenty of pressure on me. But I get it.
I'm not putting you in trouble because I think you are one of. So there are a
Thank
lot of other people there. For example, my own wife, Yasindi.
Yeah.
Yasindi, that one that hot and pepper.
Yeah.
That one
No,
is hot. And she's
so
very eloquent, you know. So
yeah,
you are one of them too. So I want you to make the case.
right.
So
I wanted to.
briefly.
I think one of the things I missed in the first 100 days was um, the provision of I think about I'll check this 50,000 quick impact jobs for youth in the first 100 days to help with the rehabilitation of certain infrastructure like schools, hospitals, clinics, just stuff getting the youth back to work in the first 100 days. I wanted to talk about that because Mr. Cummings is also very big on creating jobs. And then there's also the efforts at attracting foreign direct investments. It all may not come in the first 100 days, but just being working towards inviting investors back into the country and opening Liberia up for business. So I wanted to talk about those two I didn't mention. Like I said, the list is long. On, telling people why they should vote for Mr. Cummings. Seku, there's something we used to say, it's easy as ABC. We have 3 candidates in the race, the 3 forerunners. Well, we have several other candidates, not to dismiss the others, but the 3 forerunners in the race, Mr. Cummings, President William, Ambassador Boykai. Whether we like it or not, one of these men will be the next president of Liberia. I believe it will be Mr. Cummings. But those are our choices. We're not choosing from a pool of angels. These are mortal men, flawed men. They all have their butts. But these are the candidates we have for 2023. As a people, we need to ask ourselves, where do we want Liberia to go? If we want Liberia to remain stagnant as it is now, the Liberia we have today, if that's the Liberia we want, then we still Ambassador Weir, with President Weir. If we want to go back to the past and retrogress, then we go back to the past and support the past, Ambassador Boykai. If we want to move forward into the future for a better Liberia, then we support Mr. Cummings for a better Liberia. And why do I say this? We've seen what President Weir has done. Literally nothing. Of over 100 promises, he's only been able to fulfill 8%, 24, in 5 years. So if you're doing 24 every 5 years, how many terms do you need to fulfill the rest of the promises you've made? Mind you, now every year he's making additional promise, so the promise is increasing. So we've seen that President Weir is unable to fulfill his promises to the Liberian people. We've seen that the country has gotten worse under President Weir than it was 5 years ago. We've seen that the cost of living has increased. And these are not, Mr. Cummings can say, these are not Mr. Cummings facts. These are not ANC CPP facts. These are facts. We've seen the cost of transportation. We've seen the price of rice. We've seen the basic necessities. We've seen Liberians, citizens, become beggars in their own country. Because as the cost of living increases, their salaries reduces under what they call the harmonization. So we've seen these things, we're living them. We've also seen Ambassador Boykai serve our country for the last 40 plus years under different positions, from Minister Agriculture to head of LPRC to head of LPMC to Vice President for 12 years with oversight on Group of 72nd, Liberia Marketing Association, the lottery, and all of these other agencies. We've seen that. And the one person who've not had the opportunity to lead us is Mr. Cummings, but we've also seen his track record in other places he's worked. As he would say, a good indicator of future behavior and performance is past behavior and performance. We saw his track record when he headed CPP for 8 months. We saw how productive CPP was. We saw how successful CPP was. We saw how united CPP was. It wasn't easy. You think CPP couldn't have broken down under Mr. Cummings? I remember there was a time that CPP almost broke down with the Nima County issue between Ta Wongbe and Edith Gonglowe. But as a leader, Mr. Cummings had to take a position to save the CPP, to keep it together. that even though he did not support the violent nature of the event that happened in Nima, but in the interest of keeping the CPP together for the benefit of the Liberian people, he agreed that the ANC would allow Edith to run on a CPP ticket.
Thank you.
That was a breaking moment for the CPP, and he kept it together. He made the hard calls. We've seen him make the hard decisions. So we've seen that, but then we've also seen his work in the private sector, in corporate America, not just with Coca-Cola, but with Pillsbury Company. At 36, he was the youngest director at Pillsbury's company before he moved on to Coca-Cola. And even then, because of how well he worked, how hard he worked, how productive he was, he left from being manager in Nigeria to being head of Coca-Cola Africa, to then go on to become vice president of the entire organization across 200 countries. And I explain this to people a lot because he doesn't talk about it more. When Mr. Cummings went to Coca-Cola Africa, the senior management of Coca-Cola Africa were all whites. In fact, Coca-Cola Africa was based in London, I think, in Europe. And he said Coca-Cola Africa office cannot be outside of Africa. He brought it to South Africa. But not only that, by the time he left Coca-Cola Africa, almost more than half of the management of Coca-Cola Africa, senior management, were all Africans. Because he said Coca-Cola Africa had qualified Africans to be able to run the company in Africa. Today, almost all of Coca-La Africa senior management are Africans.
Wow.
Not only that.
Thank you. You know what?
Under his leadership at Coca-Cola Africa, let me conclude.
You'll conclude. Let me just interrupt you for a second. You remember back then, I told you that I want to assure for you as you being close to Mr. Cummings, knowing who he is, to have a conversation to tell us who is Lieutenant Cummings, because there are a lot about Cummings that we don't know.
True.
There's so many things you're saying right now. It will require a special show to cover everything. That's why I thought to interrupt you. I want you to.
I can always come back, and I'm open.
Exactly. I want you to conclude on this one. Then we will always make a room.
No, I agree. Let's find a time and I'll come back. I just don't want to lose my thought, right? And even as recent as 2-3 years ago, the head of Coca-Cola Africa was a Liberian, Rocky Finley. Wow. That's Finley's brother. And so even then, when he went to Coca-Cola, when he was at Coca-Cola Africa, today the Coca-Cola Foundation was Mr. Cummings's brainchild at the time the HIV crisis was raging in Africa. And he said Coca-Cola had to give back to Africa and Africans, and they formed the Coca-Cola Foundation that today is one of the biggest corporate foundations in the world. And even after he's left, Coca-Cola Foundation is still running and helping Africans. So even with Liberia during the Ebola, he brought all of Coca-Cola executives to come with a private jet with hundreds of thousands of drugs and Ebola materials to support the government of Liberia at the time Madame Salif was president. And even then, he was still coming to Liberia as early as 2003, 2004, right after the war, bringing drugs to clinics in Buchanan and other counties in Liberia. And he was still doing things that people didn't know about. But the point I'm raising is, this is someone who also understands how to not only just create jobs, but how to improve the private sector. And this is what we need now. Creating jobs for our people. I always say it, Liberians are a proud people. We are resilient people. We're not beggars. You get Liberian man, he'll hustle, he will go hustle. If that $25, he take that $25, he go buy food for a children to eat before he even asks you for $5. To have Liberians now begging in their own country, even people who you knew before that could afford it, is demeaning. It's disgraceful. All Liberians want are an opportunity to get jobs and be able to support their families. And this is someone who has the expertise, who understands how private sector works. When people say, oh, he ain't got government experience, or people who've had government experience, we've dealt with them for years. What has that given us? And mind you, I don't know when people understand the connection between the private sector and the public sector. For a company to grow in any country, you have to work also directly with the government. Companies like Coca-Cola Africa, private sector companies, companies that are operating in countries, they understand the bureaucracies of government. That's why in other advanced countries, you have also called PPPs, private public sectors projects. So PPPs are big projects that both government and private sector work on together. That companies come in and they form partnerships with government and they provide certain services to the citizens for minimum cost. So when you have someone with that expertise who understands how private sector works, how the private sector and government work together, who understands how to provide jobs, who understands what are those bottlenecks that companies will have and how to remove those bottlenecks, that's the kind of person we need to lead this country into the 21st century. And the only person among the three candidates who have that skill, that expertise, and that experience is Mr. Cummings. And so in short, our job has been made easier for us. We have the past, we have the present, we have the future. We have someone who has the expertise and the experience with private sector and how to provide jobs and how to help companies operate in the country and remove the bottlenecks and ensure that our people have access to these opportunities and attract foreign direct investment. And this is what Liberia needs at this time. And so for me, in my household, we will support Mr. Alexander B. Cummings for president of Liberia come 2023. And I hope everyone else listening will do the same. Thank you.
Wow. All I can say is wow. Steve, I think we have had a very good time with a new counselor. And I have a lot of questions, but we're not going to ask all of them today.
I will come back.
Yeah, we invite you. Like I said, despite on a short, very, very short notice, you made it here. I know you're going to come back. But trust me, I enjoyed the conversation. Steve, back to you. Any announcement before we go?
Well, we'll be on tomorrow. I want to say thanks to Councillor Maria. We'll be on tomorrow for the SONA address to analyze it. And I never had the opportunity.
And by the way, Steve, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
By the announcement, Councillor Verdi agreed to be with us here. So if you are available, you want to form part of the conversation because we're going to be analyzing the speech, you're also welcome. I'm telling you, I'm talking to you.
Is that invitation from Maria, right?
Yeah, if she's available to talk about it, because it's gonna be, you're gonna be fired once the president speak. Everybody want to listen to SKTV as to expert analysis as to how it went down, what the president say and what he did not say, and a lot of people read into what is not being said more than what is being said. So we need experts, we need people who understand politics, who understand laws, who understand how government works. So that's an open invitation. If you have a time tomorrow, join us. We can send you the link whenever we are ready to analyze the president's speech. And by the way, we want the opposition rebuttal to be tomorrow so we can analyze both together. Go ahead, Steve.
It's not going to be
hopefully we can.
Yeah, you need to understand. You gotta rebut. You're not just going right because you want to oppose. And if you want to miss it, that you gotta rebut. So when you say that, when you go do your research, you make sure they think what the president said are not true.
Okay.
And so when you doing your rebuttal, you're giving the people facts as well. It can't just be watered down. That so it got to take at least.
But Republican versus Democrat, they can do it just under 10 minutes.
Oh man,
They can
the Republican, the Democrats, they got their structure.
Okay.
So I can't. I'll wait for tomorrow. But me personally, thank God, I'm not associated with no party or anything. Have no restriction. I would presume what the president will write will post it on my page, what he will say tomorrow, because we have the right to do that. We have that leverage. I don't think the council has that.
I mean, we also have made certain assumptions as to what he's going to talk about.
Would you share with us, please, with SKTV, so that maybe we can look into it too as well?
Not right here, though. Not
right here. I'm saying she can share with us privately.
The thing for the rebuttal speech. Wait for it.
You counselor. You can be here in contempt, but we can be. Anyways, tomorrow we'll be here, ladies and gentlemen. Please tune in. Invite other people. Will be here for the speech to analyze the president's speech, and hopefully we can have Councilor Yakula here with us. And Councilor Verde has agreed to be with us, so we'll be here. I will make time, Mr. Kane. I'll make time to be on. I'll put some of my meetings, aside or cut it down so that I can be on. But I think it would be important to hear what the president has to say. His last speech officially as a president, to the nation and to the world at large. I'd really like to see what he would say. And we'll compare and contrast from what he said last year in the past years to see exactly, if there is a pattern here, because we've noticed some patterns over the years, but we want to see if he will still go on with his pattern, as he leaves his first term of presidency. But I think I look forward tomorrow to a good show and a beautiful day to hear from legal minds so that we can put it in legal perspective and bring it down to our people for their understanding. But thank you, Maria Yakula, for being on. Councilor Yakula, thank you so much. And definitely we will be on tomorrow.
So anything, any closing?
Yeah, thank you for having me, and I will try to be on as much as I can. I know there's also another platform that is coming up shortly called Crossfire, and I'll also be on that as well. But I'll definitely be on other platforms as guests whenever you guys call on me. And look, we are at a critical junction in our country. 2023 is, the year of making the most important decision as to the direction of our country. And let me just say this in close. When people say, "Oh, it's the right man, but Cummings can win," who will make Cummings win? You, me, every single one of us. Oh, Cummings didn't get the numbers. Who will give him the numbers? You, me, every single one of us. One of the things we'd like to do as Liberians is take the path of least resistance. We don't like to do the work. You put Mariah, you put Sekou here. Mariah and Sekou will be going for the same thing. If they see that it would take Sekou 3 days to get it in, and it would take Mariah 5 days, they will say, "Oh, Sekou will get it easily. Let's follow Sekou." Mariah will buy cigar work 5 days. So no, maybe I won't do that work. Yet and still, that Mariah probably can do the work better than Sekou. But because it's easier for Sekou to get it, so you jump in. We cannot continue to do that. We always take the path of least resistance when we should be trying to do what we can to ensure the best person gets the job. Winning is one thing. After you have won, then what? Then what? Popularity is always a plus in politics, but popularity does not get the job done. We've seen it with George Weah. If that popularity been at George Weah was supposed to win 2005, 2011. Imagine a 2005 Liberia under George Weah. Imagine how George Weah won in 2005 on popularity. Even after Madame Sharif had tried to build the foundations, look at what happened under Liberia in 2017 under George Weah. Popularity. And we're still on popularity. Yes, You popular, you win. Then what? Everybody sit there and loan each other face? Be depending on other people to run the country for you? Is that the kind of country we want for ourselves, for our children? Or do we want a president who will be running to work in the morning because we know whether he will be waiting for us at the door or the ministry? I remember Madam Solive used to do random visits at ministries. When Madam Solive used to be on the roads from the southeast to the north, Nima, Lofa, Grand Judet, Maryland, everywhere in the country, flying in and out of Liberia almost every week. And that stuff is hectic. The presidency is no smart job. That's not a job you can delegate to anybody else. Not even cabinet ministers, not even vice president. Matter of fact, the vice presidency is the most lame duck position in the Republic of Liberia. It does nothing. Nothing. Assist the president when the president gave you something to assist with. Preside over the Senate, the pro temp basically runs the Senate. And vote in a tie. There's almost always never a tie. So that's the most lame duck position. The presidency is what gets the job done. You want a president who can sit for hours and read through hundreds of pages of concession documents and react to it. You want a president who can fly every single day, every single time in and out of this country, meeting with investors, attracting FDI, having meetings across the world. You want a president who can travel on these roads, inspecting road works from Maryland to Rivergy to Sino to Bassa to Lofa to Nima to every part of the country. And when I tell you these roads are terrible, they are, because I've been on them. You want a president who is up and running, because Liberia needs to get up and running. And I'm sorry, but our choices are limited. And because that's what we have to work with, all of us have to come together and say, this is the person we'll support. This is the person we give the numbers. This is the person we know can do the job. And because we know this person can do the job, we'll support this person. And that person is Alex Cummins. Thank you. Good night. Good to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very, very, very much. So before we close, folks, I want to thank everybody that have contributed. One, Sarah, she didn't say don't come money. Now I'm calling her name. Since she sent us SKTV $50 on Cash App. And somebody else sent $20, but the person said no name. No, don't call your name. So I want to say thank you to all of you. We have about, I think, three contributors today. We appreciate it. Somebody said they wanted to understand why they are contributing. So they want to contribute. They want to know why. Since, I wanted to talk about it, but people are leaving already. But let me say it for the people that stay here. The reason why you should contribute, we do not have any source of income to maintain SKTV. Everything we do is from our pocket. That's one. Secondly, we have correspondents and reporters everywhere in Liberia. They too, they are not on salary. They are on voluntary basis, but we have to compensate them. Some of the compensation is to buy money to put on their phone. Some of that at the end of the month, from our own pocket, we compensate them with something. Some of them, right now, as we speak to you, they need equipment. Some of them need phones. Some of them need that tripod, is the thing where they can put a phone and camera on. Imagine we're doing everything from our pocket. So every time you contribute $5, $10, $10, $20, $50. The reason why we are happy about it, we appreciate it, because we need it. All the major platforms you see over there, CNN, all the people, then they do advertisement, they do commercial. People sponsor, you got sponsorship. We are also open to sponsorship. If you have your business, you have anything you want us to talk about it every time on our show, you sign up for sponsorship. Beginning of the show, middle of the show, after the show, we'll call your name, we'll call your business, we'll tell the people what you do. We need that money. Anything you can give to us, it will help us maintain our people back home. It will also help us pay for some of the bills for SKTV, including compensating our friends, our reporters, correspondents in Liberia. So this is a continued process. That's why, even if you give Father, we appreciate it, because you know what, tomorrow we want to ask you again to donate. So you don't have to give much. Whatever you can afford, give it to the platform. And that's why you're here. So I don't want to say that to everybody.
Sekou, before we go, can I clarify something quickly? I think I read a comment about me clarifying the role of the VP and why we're holding former VPs as to what they did. It's very important I clarify that.
Please.
The role of the VP, like I said, is a lame duck. Is to assist the president with what the president gives you to assist with. The past VP was given several responsibilities. When people say, what did the VP do, what did VP Boyka do? It's because VP Boyka was given several responsibilities to assist with. I mentioned earlier, the VP had oversight over Liberian Marketing Association, Group of 72nd, the lottery.
Group of 77?
Group of 77, the disability group, the lottery. What's the other? I think there was another one. I think about 4 or 5 agencies that were under the vice president's office. When people ask, what did the VP do? We're asking about what progress did these groups make? What impact did he make on these groups? What was his impact with these groups? Because these were directly under his office. These were the things that the president had asked him to assist with. On top of that, the president also asked the former VP to represent her outside of the country multiple times. What were some of the conversations? What did Liberia get out of these visits? What were the things that he negotiated for on behalf of the president or on behalf of the country? All of those things. So I don't want people saying, oh, because the VP, as per the Constitution, does not have specified roles, so you can ask, what did a VP do? Yes, you can, if that VP was given roles and responsibilities to implement, as the former VP was given roles and responsibilities. I know the other day someone was asking about Group of 77, and because it was under the VP's office, and the Liberal Marketing Association, all of these other organizations. So I just wanted to clarify that. So when people are asking, and outside of his 12 years as VP and his oversight over these organizations, he also worked in government at higher levels, from agriculture minister, LPMC head, LPRC head, so all of those other institutions. So people still ask, what did he do in these positions? So I just wanted to clarify that. Yes, the VP by law is lame duck. It assists the VP assists the president as the president assigns responsibilities to the VP to do. And so the former VP Boyka had responsibilities assigned by the president at the time, and there were several organizations under his office that he had oversight on. And when people ask, what did the former VP do with these organizations, that's towards that point. So I just wanted to clarify.
Steve, thank you, Mariah. Thank you. That was very good, because you know what? When we give you the opportunity to close, after you close, a lot of people thought we're going to just, press the button. Everybody, a lot of people left, but some people stay here. So the answer you gave, they will carry it. So it's good. Yeah, so those that are stay here will carry the information that you just gave. And the person who say, if you stop being ANC, I will send $500. So we're not ANC. What? We're not ANC.
They're not ANC.
So if you get a $500 to give it, send it. We want it. If you don't have it, you just come here to come play phone. That's also good. But no, we are not ANC. We are not government. We are not UP. We are SKTV, and we hold loyalty to nobody, and you know that. That's why we hold everybody accountable, and we speak truth to everybody, regardless of who you are. So, Mariah, once again, thank you so much. And while I was saying that, somebody, let me see. Okay, the person said, I'm not call their name. Yeah, I was just going to say, the person said, the person said, the person said, yeah, the person said, to cash, but the person said, I don't come. Okay, the person gave the money just because Mariah performing here today, just because Mariah is my daughter. I'm doing this, but don't call my name. And me, Mariah got plenty more than so.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Wait. Don't waste it when okay, you know. So that means to say we gotta be bringing Mariah every day.
Oh.
That means every day you gotta tell the people the person who's taking get 500, you gotta tell the person you're not ANC.
Yes.
Because that person 500 is important. We need it.
Okay. You know, maybe on the phone guy right now, that phone is not taking charge anymore. Can you imagine? The phone up, the charging. That's why the man was not even on the show yesterday. And we have Abraham. We got a lot of other, pretty much now election is coming. We have correspondent in almost 90%. We're coming get a station with
right?
CDC.
But the reason why all of them are not active and working the way they should, because they all need us, they all need help, and we can only do so much in our pocket.
Come and get a station with CDC.
So little help that people can get from the people here also help us help our platform. When we start making money, okay, let me tell you something quickly before we go.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Before I go, something I wanted to say. We have a large following. So we were supposed to be making money from Facebook. We set up everything and everything was good. A guy that used to work with us, Ralph Flomo from Kakata, Magibi County, carry a video where somebody was lying down, blood spilling, under them. Facebook consider that as graphic and something that they say abuse their community standard. So the monetization, they cancel it. They suspended it. We have tried. That guy doesn't even work for anyone. We have tried. And for some reason, we still used to have change, when people send start to the platform. I don't know what happened again. It says somebody else. That's why some of the people then they need education, when they are added to the platform. But then say somebody violated that again, the star is not available anymore. That's why when you come on the show, star should be available right away for you to donate or do whatever you want to do with it. But it's not available anymore because they say we violated the standard. So because of that, everything we have to do, we got to do it from our pocket. So that's why it's important. We get everybody come here. That's why you don't have to give much one day. You come here today, you get $10, give it to us, $20, we'll take it. You come tomorrow, you get nothing, fine. We've been doing this thing by ourselves since 2017. Nobody helping or we're doing it. But it's important that you help. They say put your
the benefit changing it. There's a kind of the benefit.
The benefit when you change, but still, you know what?
Me and Mariah, that ANC people, it's station on that ANC station, no problem. We'll take it. We're not there.
All right.
SKTV.
Mariah, I think Mariah got to go though.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So you didn't also tomorrow you're going to be available or not?
I will try.
Okay. If you are going to be, let me know. Okay.
Let me know the link. I will try my best to come if I can. And what time is it? Is it 6 o'clock my time?
Yeah, we always do the show 6 o'clock, 6 p.m.
I don't know if I'll be. I know the State of the Nation, the program is at 4, I think.
But if it's not, let's
at 4, so it might run.
What we're gonna do, we're not gonna do it until after the president address, because we're not gonna do it simultaneously, right? We have to listen to it first and then go and do it.
Yeah.
So more likely, so tentatively we might start at 7 or 7:30. Just to ensure
whatever the case is, it will be done. If the president is done by 6 o'clock, we'll go with our regular time.
Okay.
If it runs into our time, we will wait. As soon as they finish, we'll start.
Okay, that makes sense.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, guys. Good night. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Good night, everybody. We appreciate those people that donated to all. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
And we appreciate you. So, Steve, are you there?
Learn.
Find a friend like me. Find a friend like me. If you not want betrayal, find a friend like me. Find a friend like me. Find a friend like me. If you not